Great. All right, let's call this meeting to order at 7:02 p.m. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me in a little bit longer moment of silence tonight, just in recognition of all those across the world who've lost their life and are currently still suffering. Thank you. Sunshine Law notice. In accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, public meetings may be held in person or by means of communication equipment to include streaming services and other online meeting platforms. This meeting is being held in person and through the Zoom meeting platform, being broadcast from Borough Hall, 748 River Road, Fairhaven, New Jersey. Public participation for this regular council meeting of October 10th, 2023 is available by call and phone number or through web conference Zoom. Members of the public will be on mute until it is time for questions or comments, which will be announced. At that time, the public has the opportunity to question or comment by phone or through Zoom by the raise hand button and will be called on at the appropriate time. Notice of this meeting was included in a schedule of meetings which was adopted by resolution number 2023-13 and sent to the Asbury Park Press, the Two River Times, and the Star Ledger on January 6, 2023, and posted on the Borough website, the bulletin board, and the municipal building, and has remained continuously posted as required under the statute. With adequate notice having been given, the Borough Clerk is directed to include this statement in minutes of this meeting. Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Council members Cole. Here. Chloe. Yes. Barbara.
Here.
Nat. Here. Rodriguez.
Here. Thank you. Getting right into it, our 2022 municipal audit. Our trusted auditor, Bob Allison, is here. Thank you for being here. Come on up.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
We completed the audit probably about 6 weeks ago. And it was submitted to the state. I did have like a 2-page handout, if you have it there. And it's just a synopsis of the report. The report obviously is about 150 pages thick. So I'll go over some brief things. So we have a couple of different reports that are part of the audit, and we have 2 different opinions. One is an adverse opinion, which you would say is a bad opinion, and one is an unmodified opinion. So why do we have an adverse opinion? Because New Jersey accounting is not under generally accepted accounting principles, which the rest of the country is. So New Jersey has its own set of accounting principles. So if someone from Wall Street was to pick up this audit and look at it, they would not make much sense of it. And so we're letting the reader know, don't think this is a GAAP report. It's adverse. So, but it is under the New Jersey regulatory basis. And with that, we have an unmodified opinion, which is a clean opinion, but which is the best opinion that you can get. We also have reports on internal controls over financial reporting compliance. So this report is not something which we render an opinion on, but it is something which, if we come across violations of compliance or reporting, we will let you know that. And we look at things like bid law. We look at things like the health benefit withholdings. We look at payroll tax reporting, things of that nature. There's many more, but those are the kind of reporting and compliance elements which we look at. If we were auditing a for-profit company, if you were Fairhaven contractors, we would not look at that. That's not something that's required of us. But on a government audit, you have to look at that as an auditor and pass comment if there's a violation of compliance. And we have no material weaknesses and no deficiencies and no other compliance issues. It was a very clean report, and we have no comments. Synopsis of your finances, which is Exhibit A through A3, pages 11 to 22. This is a graph of your surplus or your fund balance. You can see a nice steady rise from 2020 to 2022. This represents about 29% of your budget That's a very healthy number, for a small town. I like to see that. If you were to get a bond rating, the bond rating agencies look to see how healthy you are as a surplus. And really, if you have anything less than 15 or 20%, you'd be hard pressed to get an A rating. And when you're a smaller town, they like to see more because small things can turn into big things. So 29% is very good. And I would recommend you stay between that 25 and 30% surplus. Your tax rate dropped in 2022. That's probably a factor of your appraised values going up. So then your rate comes down. The next page is just a snapshot of some of your revenues, the top 6 revenues from 2022. You can see you're very stable with use of surplus and miscellaneous revenue. And of course, your largest 90% of your revenue or more comes from your taxation. And once again, we have no comments or recommendations. You have a very good crew here. And Colin Lapp is very competent CFO and very good shape.
Anyone have any questions for Bob?
Just one, Mr. Allison, if you could just to explain or educate, I know that the audit refers to public lands as assets and attaches a dollar figure or value to it. What purpose does it serve if it can't be liquidated, or can you explain?
Well, the land that is on the audit report is land that's owned by the town, unless there's some reason that it is restricted, like Green Acres.
Sure.
But if you wanted to sell the land that you're on right here and move the offices over somewhere else, you can.
Okay,
You can. I mean, you're allowed to sell assets just like any other.
so anything that's if it's on the Rossi, it's not considered an asset and it doesn't show up in the audit as.
Say it again, excuse me.
If it's part of the county open space been acquired.
Yeah, that has restrictions on it. It's still yours, and the assessor, should assess that at a different way because it's not as free and easy to sell and has a lot of restrictions on it.
Yeah,
So a regular piece of property that might be worth $1 million otherwise, and if it has these restrictions of Green Acres, it may be worth 50,000. I mean,
well, it actually costs us
but
money.
I'm not sure exactly
That's right.
how the assessor would do it, but.
But it is differentiated in the audit?
No, it's all within the asset.
Oh, okay.
It's not a separate class of. But you have to, address your assessor about that and see how they evaluate.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Allison.
All right,
Thank you.
Good job. Thank you. Right into a workshop session, tree removal appeal, 6 3rd Street, Village. Michael Kelly. Come on up, Mike. All right, anything you want to tell us about what's going on?
Well, this is a fairly small lot on 3rd Street, approximately 100 by 100. There's an existing ranch that's fairly dilapidated, which I'm proposing to construct a new house there. And on the right side of the property, towards the school, there's 3 white pines that the canopy would protrude far enough into the dig zone for the new foundation of the new house that these trees wouldn't survive. So I had a tree expert look at this. We actually shifted the house over to the left once to try to center it on the lot, and it still would affect the foundation location. So if we were to excavate the superior walls with the overhead of approximately 5 feet, we would be into the root system.
Mr. Kelly.
Yeah.
Mechanics on the line you want.
Yeah, so Zig is from Green Touch Landscaping and Nursery. He's a tree expert I hired to look at this, and he supplied a report to the township. So technically, they're white pines. I don't know if you guys have the report here, but they're along there, and he demonstrates, indicates the size of those, the condition. I already cut back all the tree branches one time, but I thought it would work. It still doesn't work.
Mike, do you have a landscaping plan set yet for the new home?
No, I don't have a landscaping plan set yet.
So you don't know as far as replacement trees?
Yeah, so I know that I'm gonna do fairly substantial shrubs and that type of thing, but when it comes to shade trees or larger trees, I don't have that set yet. I think in his
So-
report, I'm sorry, he proposed a couple of tree replacement program for
Yes.
this property.
I believe three
It's
trees
hard
are-
to see what he wrote unless it's on a different page. I think it says 3,
2.5 to 3 inch caliper
what's the
Castura,
Castura tree?
yeah. There's a street tree shown on survey, so I think for one for each, so that would be a total of 3.
Can I ask a clarifying question about that? It looks like there's 4. I did drive by and look at it. The survey shows 4 trees.
Yeah, that's a birch tree, but
Uh-huh.
it's under the diameter that's considered a tree.
The birch. What is the
I think it says
Can
9
you
inch.
keep the birch?
Yeah, that's not in the way.
Because the
The birch
birch
is gonna stay,
can stay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you want to take down the 3 big white pines,
right?
and has your project been approved? You
No,
haven't
it's
put it-
actually in zoning right now, but I do know that there's no variance required because it's a non-conforming lot only because they did a street expansion years back and took some frontage for
Mhm.
depth.
Mhm.
So it's basically 100 by 90 something,
Mhm.
but we meet all the setbacks, we fight lot coverage, building coverage and everything else.
I mean, he's on the line if they'd like to hear from him. I don't need it to, I don't think we need to hear from him. And maybe that'll save Mike some money.
I will say, it's important to get some trees on the property. It is a tight fit. I hear you're to keep the birch and that you'd like to put some shrubs in. When you take down a tree, we'd like to see a tree planted,
Sure,
so.
no, I would too.
Yeah.
No problem with that.
But Mike, are you committing, through your,
3 trees at 2.5 inches.
yeah, are you making that
I'm
amendment to us?
fine with that, yeah.
Just one thing,
Is it by-
so, and Rich, help me out here, so on that corner lot, right, there's stormwater infrastructure that goes down Hance, right, and then stormwater infrastructure that goes down Third that connects to Gentry.
Right,
And whatever trees, if you can just coordinate with the town, I don't want the roots to grow out into the stormwater infrastructure, so if there's some type of consensus that looks at like native planting and where roots won't protrude through the stormwater infrastructure, I would just appreciate that consideration.
yeah, so you're talking about parallel with Third Street, off the right of way, approximately 8 or 10 feet from the curb line?
Yeah,
Mhm.
Sure, that's fine, yeah.
yeah, so
Anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Second.
Allison, may I please have a roll call? Do I need a roll call or no? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Michael, thank you for doing this the right way.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Thank
Chris,
you.
you'll send you a letter.
Okay, thank you.
We have a request from Rumson Fairhaven Youth Wrestling to display 8 to 10 registration signs. Is Mr. Coulter here or no? I don't think he is. Does anyone have any questions on this?
Is it gonna conflict at all where the Dermer signs are? You know, like they're gonna be like, I'm just curious, man. I'm not.
So the wrestling signs that I've seen are much smaller. They're the size of like the election signs that go on the ground.
Okay,
Most of the Derma Dreams ones that I think you're thinking of are bigger.
yeah,
So I know they have the smaller ones too,
okay.
but it's only going up for a short period of time. I don't see an issue.
I'm good with it. I just was curious.
The only thing I was gonna say is there's a lot of signs going up lately, right? It's Cub Scouts, it's rugby, it's this. I'm just trying to think long term. And they'll be taken out. I have never run out, but like they're still going up, you know, and I would love to figure out a way to market it digitally so we don't have them. Similar to baseball, basketball, every other sport.
I'm not discounting. I think that's a good existential question as far as how we want it, but as far as this specific sign at this moment, I think we're good, right? We're good.
And I checked
And-
that
and
those
let's-
signs will be
Let's
down.
discuss that offline.
I verified on the spreadsheet, a lot of
Okay.
the signs will be down that were on your group or are down, so.
Does anyone have a motion to approve that?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, brush and leaf schedule for 2024.
Awesome. Mayor, if it's okay with you, I'd like to call up the members in the public up to the
Absolutely.
table here that are part of the brush and leaf committee. I've got everyone, I'll come up, grab some chairs. If you want to, there's no pressure, you do not have to. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us out there, 6. Okay, they're there, okay. Yeah, do you guys want to stand up, just introduce yourself real quick? Can I at least get an intro for you guys? Yeah, real quick, Neil, take it away real quick.
Neil Watcher, 60 Baton Road.
Susan O'Brien, 875 River Road. Catlock, 79 Forest Avenue. Mary Nicholas, 117 Princeton Road. Betsy Cole, 146 Marion. Jackie Newman, 66
So that's about half the brush and leaf committee, so I'm just gonna provide some background, and everybody had the proposed plan in there, but I kind of wanted to paint a little bit of picture. So the committee was established based out of feedback from residents on brush and leaf in our town. There was a myriad of pieces of feedback that have come back, but really what it boiled down to for us to balance was 7 or 8 key components. One is how do we increase services, right, within our current budget constraints, our current staffing restraints, et cetera. Safety, obviously, we've all gotten those phone calls with brush and parking spaces, or too far out where kids can't, be in a safe corridor. Clean streets, alignment with other municipal services, so think like garbage and recycling, because our thought process was, we don't want to add in additional items on the street, because it's in the summer, right, there's garbage pails on the streets 5 days a week. Stormwater management, this was a big one. For those of you out in the storm, the amount of brush and leaves that were, and even like branches that were over the inlets was pretty intense. Street sweeping. Focus on staff efficiencies, and then even the resident efficiencies, and I'll pull that apart a little bit. So we took kind of those components and really went back to basics. We had meetings with DPW and engineering, code enforcement, communications. We looked at almost a dozen other towns with what they did and how they approached it. So we took all of that and went through probably around 6 or 7 iterations. So it's a 3-pronged approach, and I'm going to start backwards and end with the schedule. So the first kind of improvement we want to make overall have to do with enforcement. And the primary change here is to make, when somebody is summoned that first time, court appearance required. There were numerous anecdotes of where the code enforcement officer would approach a resident regarding them being out of compliance, and the resident would say, I'll pay, how much is the fine? I'll just pay the fine, I don't care, just leave it there. And that doesn't really constitute compliance. As we talked throughout it, something that is very valuable to folks is their time. Hence, we would want to look at introducing a court appearance in that first strike. Now, there's a balance there. We don't want to alienate our residents. We want to provide grace. There are those times where we just forget, and there is some fluidity there. But there are very clear, what I would call repeat offenders across town. And having a mechanism that would change that behavior is really, really important. The other kind of prong is communications. You'll see in the proposed schedule, we're suggesting to get rid of zone ABC completely. Get rid of it. But there's some key themes that need to be disseminated to educate our residents. To include what is vegetative waste. Why are grass clippings a recycling class C? I forget the qualifier for that, but it's a classified piece of recycling material. Discern country and county and local street sweeping, right? Because we have River Road, stormwater management. So there were key kind of communication themes and ways we wanted to educate our residents. One of the key solutions that we talked to, and we've seen other towns do this, where you offer adopt a storm inlet. Whether it's a resident or a business who kind of monitors inlets in towns and takes the brush away or the garbage. It's in other towns, and I've actually seen them put placards on the inlets. I'm not saying we do that, but I'm just saying it's something that has been done in the past.
Placard would be like a text the leaves from going in.
No, like a placard that says like, hey,
Like it's the always.
Oh, got it.
yeah. So enforcement communication. The final piece of this, and I'm gonna see if anyone in the public from a personal committee have anything to add. The other came down to the schedule. And there were a couple of things that went into this, and just allow me to explain and then we can ask questions. There were some key assumptions that we're making. Leaves require more attention in the fall, brush requires more attention in the spring. Acts of nature, it's impossible to create a standard around acts of nature because they're sporadic, they're random, and those get assessed and dealt on a case-by-case basis. I don't know if you recall back in the storm we had in August, DPW went out, assessed, it met the threshold of how much materials out there, and they did an ad hoc pickup back in August. If pickups were more frequent, the volume would be less. We also looked at the data that we had that showed how much material was in fact being picked up to help understand where the spikes in activity were as far as residents removing equipment, removing brush and leaf and even vegetative waste. And the other piece is that we will never achieve 100% compliance ever. But along with communication enforcement, we can make some scheduling changes that we think would go a long way. So what it boils down to is a few things, and this is where I want to spend a little bit of time. The first is get rid of ABC. The town is split up into 4 zones. That's how we do garbage. That's how we do recycling. We should do that because it will allow us, when the trash contract comes up for negotiation next year, there's been some discussion, if we could do whole town pickup in one day.
Yeah.
Right? Recycling pickup all in one day. So if we follow the zone 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we align what we're going to propose in here on a Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever the dates become for recycling and garbage, well, that's 2 days out of the week where something on the street, and the other 3 where there's not. And that allows time for street sweeping, that allows time for other components. So get rid of that completely. Start off, in here it says March, it's 31 March, so really it's April, have bookends. Start with a spring clean out, right? We all do spring cleanouts, leaves, brush, you name it, right? Out to the curb like we normally do. And then have a fall clean out. Same thing, right? You're putting your house to bed, you're putting your property to bed, clean it out. Do whatever you got to do, put on the curb like you do. I'm going to continue in the fall and then I'll come back in between. Right after fall clean out is done, segue into rolling leaf pickup. So the biggest, there were quite a few data points that we had. How the leaf season changes. Some folks in zone A had their leaves picked up too early, and then by the time the leaves really fell, they weren't due to pick up. There was a lot that went in here. We can unpack it as you deem fit. But the point was, after the fall clean out, go into a rolling pickup, and every zone will be picked up 4 times after the fall cleanup. And that is more than double, that doubles the fall leaf pickup service in the fall, doubles it there. Doubles it, correct. Now, so we have bookends, rolling leaf. In between, what we want to propose is to move towards what we are calling a green can. Green is just a placeholder. The idea is some type of standard can where residents can load up however many cans that they have and put it to the curb. Again, aligning it with the other municipal services and do pickup twice a month. So right now it's once a month. So between the bookends, we again would be doubling the service. And the thought process is by doing the bookend on the front end and getting a lot of the volume out of the way, you will then not have as much volume because you did your primary clean out in the spring and then you have sustained services. So then we spent some time talking through that with the can, some initial research. It would be on the homeowner to purchase the can or cans. The reason is because not everybody would capitalize on that, right? It's given the residents the option. We talked about establishing a relationship with Fairhaven Hardware, how we can incentivize it, certain costs, certain colors, certain size. They're around 20 to 25 bucks, the can. So front end, front book end and back book end, right? So spring clean out, fall clean out. From fall clean out, segue right into rolling leaf as you normally done it, doubling the service. And then between the spring clean out, the fall clean out, switching to this can and increasing the service to twice a month as opposed to what it currently is.
Question.
Did I miss anything from my committee?
No, I think you got it. What goes in the can?
Project.
Right.
First question, court appearance required.
Mhm.
So you get a summons for $125. What if they don't want to make the court appearance? They just want to pay $125.
Mandatory.
So are you saying it's mandatory, or what if they don't show up? I mean, what if
A
they-
bench warrant is issued.
a bench, we're gonna issue a bench warrant over.
So any municipal court tickets that are issued where there is the box that's checked off as mandatory court appearance required. If you don't appear, a bench warrant is issued, and then that could transform into an arrest warrant.
Do you think maybe we could consider that being the second strike?
Sure.
I think it's a little heavy for a first strike to have someone have a bench warrant based on right. But that, listen, this was a priority for the borough.
Understood.
That was my first, my second one.
And we still have to do an ordinance update for that regardless.
Oh, and before I even get to my second one, I want to say thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. This is fantastic. And the only two things I'm even questioning here, that's like 5% of the entire 100%. I'm thrilled. I think this is gonna make things so much better in the borough. So thank you, all of you, for your hard work. It really is fantastic. The green can idea. My concern with the green can idea, many of you know that I don't like when it's bulk pickup around town, there's just random stuff all over the place. And I'm a little bit concerned that everyone's gonna be buying their own cans. They're all gonna look different. And it's gonna look like this smorgasbord of plastic all over the borough.
That's fair.
So I don't know if there's a deeper conversation we can have. I don't know if it's I'm always trying to pull tax dollars out of our program, but I don't know if it's a one-time $25 charge we could do on a tax quarter where we deliver the same can to everyone. That's kind of my concern is, I think it'll look sloppy. We have a beautiful town. And, the only time it doesn't look beautiful to me is even when the garbage cans are out, not that the garbage cans are attractive, but it's nice that they're all aligned and they all have the same color and they look the same. I think we're asking for, we're gonna have different shapes and stuff. I don't know what the solution is.
May I offer a response, Mayor? So we talked through this, right? And I didn't go to anybody yet, right? I didn't ask anybody on the Brush League Committee as well to go to anybody. This was the thought process, right? Have an ordinance, right, that outlines the can. Because not every resident takes advantage of this, right? We have residents who do their landscaping. We have residents who use landscapers, right? We have all these different types of residents when it comes to brush and leaf and the utility itself. For me personally, I don't do anything between spring and fall, right? Everything else I do with what I want with it, right? So the idea would be have an ordinance. Go to Fairhaven Hardware and outline the specs. And we're saying green, it doesn't have to be green. It was just easy to kind of quantify it that way. It could be dark gray, it could be anything, any color we want. And it's gonna be a certain size, 32 gallons, because it has to be picked up. And have it be that way. And the other thing too, and talking with Rich and the entire DPW team who's completely behind it, and the guys are actually jazzed about it, pumped. They're gonna be able to monitor what's in the cans, right? They're gonna be able to monitor the type is, and we've already started the conversations with code enforcement with what the relationship between DPW and code enforcement needs to look like. Last thing we wanna tell DPW is don't pick up something that's unsafe, but at the same token, we also don't want to let it go from a compliance perspective. So the communication and the operational management between DPW and code enforcement is be key. So that's kind of where we landed, with trying to figure out how we can incentivize it, right? Can Fairhaven Hardware establish in such a way where they deliver it for the residents and it shows up, right? Like they go online, fill out a form and they pay, pay with their credit card and it gets delivered to them.
How does it work now, Teresa, with the garbage cans we all own? Like I don't even remember, how did that get to my house?
Well, Rich can expand, but when they went to the one-armed bandits, which was before I got here, they actually purchased them one for every, kid in town. You have choice of 2 sizes, but most people have the larger size. And then we do at somewhat of an expense, replace them as they break and we order them and fund them. But even if you bought, $20 a can, you're talking $44,000 to buy every resident, and some people might need 2 or 3. I think you might be better off, adopting a type of can that's allowable by ordinance, and people can go ahead and purchase themselves. Some people might not want any. If you're not a person that's gonna put brush to the curb or whatever the case may be, some people might want 3 if they're big, lot of yard, and some of the larger properties, and they want to get brush every 2 weeks, they might want, several cans.
Can Clean Communities funds be used to offset costs?
There are a certain percentage of clean communities can be used. I'm not positive if we use for a green can. I'd have to double check with the rules on that. I know it can be used for, trash cans if I want to put them in parks or whatever, in public spaces. As far as paying for trash cans that are going to people's houses, I'd have to do a little research on that.
It'd be interesting to find out. I had another off of trash can, but I do agree with you. The green can makes all the sense in the world, and keeping it uniform, it's also sensible. I would also suggest that there might be other partners out there who can help promote this. I'm thinking of the Environmental Commission and Green Team and all the good folks out there who are really on board with this, because one of the other key goals that it sounds like, if I'm understanding the bookends, between the bookends, we're not putting debris in the curb.
Correct.
Right. That makes me so happy, because that's the stuff that's going in the storm drain.
Yes.
It's clogging up the flow and it's going into the river. And that's not where it's supposed to go. So, beautiful plan. I don't know when the bookends would occur, and that probably requires a little fine tuning, or maybe could the committee talk about?
Yeah, in your packet is a calendar, a proposed calendar.
Okay,
So you would start zones 1 and 2. So let's assume we're good with this for 2024.
right.
In March 31st at 2024. It should be back a week. This one's not updated. The spring cleanup zone. Oh, it is. If you go to April 2024, it says it. It's page 1 on the bottom. But spring cleanup zones 1 and 2 start the week of March 31st, and our ordinance says residents can put out the Wednesday before. So what that means is zones 1 and 2, starting 27 March, would put out their spring cleanup. Spring cleanup goes through half the town during those 2 weeks. And then zones 3 and 4 would put out on the 10th. And then the week of the 14th and 21st would be when the rest of the town. Now, you gotta remember, they're going through those zones, not just once. They're going through it and picking everything up, so.
Just a little kind of in-depth, a little nitty-gritty. In September, it looks like you're talking about the fall cleanup. I don't want to interpret this. Tell me when the fall cleanup is.
October.
Okay. And then after that, we've got leaves.
Yep, right into rolling leaf.
So that would be going on right now, fall cleanup next year.
All fall cleanup will be happening right now, yep, through the end of the month. And then starting on the 1st of November, or in this case, the first week of November, right into rolling leaves.
Perfect. I think that's,
Rolling meaning people can put them out anytime they want to.
yeah.
And our DPW will manage where, by monitoring where they're gonna do their pickups, depending on, where they have the most volume or what makes the most sense from a
Sure.
route perspective. And to the councilman's point, when they do spring cleanup or fall cleanup, residents have the option of putting it to the curb, like we traditionally had done. because of the volume,
Mhm.
or they can still put a can out if they so desire.
Mhm.
Some people might not have that type of volume and they're okay with just putting a can out for their spring and fall. If
And-
they have either option.
And one of the anecdotes that we talked about was that there was a consensus amongst the group of seeing residents when they were cleaning up, putting stuff into a can, dragging it to the front and dumping the can out.
Oh.
Huh.
Right, so the thought process was, if residents use a can as a mechanism to begin with, right, why are we having to put it in, and dump it out, right?
Right,
We did talk about, if it was just on their property. But then the time to get the brush or leaf off of somebody's property, the damage we would potentially do with the claw, it just didn't make sense, so. Our ultimate goal, right, I mean,
How does that add or not to the cost and logistics for the borough in terms of, the totality of
Yep.
what you're proposing? Does it increase the cost of picking up brush and leaf substantially, or it doesn't?
so I can't speak to what's gonna happen, because we've never done this before, so I don't have the data, right? The brush itself goes to the brush grinding site.
Mhm.
When you look at the data, and I think we have 7 years of it, or 5 years of it, I can't remember, of how much brush there is on average. I mean, it's fairly consistent. Listen, if there's 2 or 3 major storms and the DPW goes out 2 or 3 times, they're not supposed to, it's gonna spike, but it's fairly consistent. So I don't really envision. The one area where I think there might potentially be some cost differential, either more or less, I don't know, is on the bookends.
Hmm.
Right? Because if brush and leaf and even vegetative waste is mixed, you can't bring it to the brush grinding site. You can't bring leaves to the brush grinding site. It's a hard stop. Like, you are not allowed to do it unless you have certain DEP approval and the classifications. So we go to Mazda. I think we go to Mazda, right? And we pay by the ton or whatever.
I could add a little to.
Yeah, please.
Good evening. The one thing I just wanted to reinforce was for the spring cleanup and the fall cleanup. We're gonna have a date on the calendar when you have to put your stuff to the curb. Once we come down your street, that's basically it. I don't know if you had.
I might have conflated a
That
little
was
bit there.
confusing to you. It's gonna be the same way we are now. We come through, once we do a street, we're gonna move through those zones to get those zones picked up, basically within a week. The other thing is, you had talked about the cost, the efficiency. Where we really pick it up is our staffing. Right now, with zones A, B, and C, we're picking brush up 3 to 4 days a week. So each month that brush collection is performed, you're looking at, say, 9 to 12 days of brush collection. Well, during the green can scenario, say you put your can out Monday night, it's gonna get picked up the next day. So we'll be able to have your crews available to tackle half the town, to get those cans picked up, just like your trash is. Now granted, if it's heavy, which it could be, maybe earlier in the season, so just a little carryover to the next morning for a couple hours, not a big deal. Or in some cases, we could have crews stay a little later to pick that up. So there, in the green can weeks, now you're only looking at 4 days a month. Rather than 9 to 12, we can then take those staff members and focus those resources elsewhere. The leaf collection, you're gonna see an increase, as Councilman Drew said, with, I'm guessing 3 to 4 times. You can't gauge Mother Nature. We've already got leaves coming down in October, certain trees. We'll be able to manage it. We'll be able to tackle pro crews added as necessary and schedule crews as necessary to get the leaves up. Our goal is always to get them up by the holidays, by the end of December. And then right after that, we roll into picking up
Christmas trees.
Christmas trees. That would stay as is. Yeah, Drew did a great job articulating everything, all the points that we had talked about, meeting with the staff, meeting with the committee. And I think, like you said, we're excited. I think it'll allow us to become more efficient. I think it plays right into even our new facility that's gonna be coming online, that's the goal, is to become more efficient. So this just rolls right into this. And definitely aligning it with municipal services such as trash recycling. And then as you can see, the street sweeper, being able to plug that in has been a great asset.
And Rich got feedback from everyone in DPW, like they had like mini sections on this, right, without the brush.
Yeah, we did round tables.
Yeah.
Great.
It was really an inclusive process.
The only other thing I'll mention is that, I agree with the idea of having a uniform can, because I think that differentiates our town from many other towns that have some really trashy looking trash cans. So I actually do think that that's true. I also wonder, instead of the court appearance, can you just triple define? Because I mean, if it's $200, nobody cares, but if it's 600, they will care.
We toggled back and forth with that. I will do whatever the governing body assesses. And we were trying to figure out a balance.
It seems there's room for an escalation, which is kind of, that's the tone I'm hearing.
Correct.
Feels normal and expected,
Yeah.
and it could capture that repeat offender. And I think your point was, based on all the input, people are very protective of their time. So that might be in the third level, perhaps it's a warning, a fine. And then.
So a warning,
Fine.
yeah, a warning,
Fine.
and just so you know, one thing that we were educated on, a warning and a fine are treated the same way right now.
So no warnings?
No warnings, you go straight to a summons. There's no verbal. It's strike one, you're getting a letter in your mailbox. That's what happens as of today. We're just saying, put a little more oomph behind it.
Okay.
I'm okay if you want to raise strike one a little bit from the 125. I still feel pretty strongly that you shouldn't have a court summons here first.
You don't, I have to agree with you, Mayor.
I think someone who write a check for 125 will write like 600.
I'm not sure about that, but
I'm just, if you put something like a high number.
I also think 600 is heavy for a first
Yeah, I'm just.
infraction.
But if we did
It's very heavy.
250, 500, 1,000, no
That's
court
not
appearance, one strike two court appearance,
I
strike
think,
three court
I
appearance.
think it's too high.
Too high?
I personally do. I mean, strike one, the highest I would even say is, I think 150 would be fine.
Check.
I'm okay with
Personally,
that.
Are you giving a warning notice? Cause in the past, you've given warning notices.
to you personally, when your brushes are?
We all.
Are you talking about personally, or are you talking about?
I'm just saying experience in the town and, you know, as the attorney, I've had constituents asking about, warning notices.
Since we're introducing something new, perhaps there should be room for that education window. While maybe we have an education.
Provide
window
some grace.
Warnings, yeah, grace is a good, we want people to adapt,
Yes.
you know,
Well,
voluntarily.
I think the idea is that if you get a warning, he's giving you 5 days
Right,
to
get together.
fix it, but if you ignore the warning, then you're gonna get strike one.
Got it.
Who's enforcing it? DCW?
Rob.
You know, our code enforcement, but he will work with DPW, they speak to each other and.
Because I think that's, there's only one court enforcer, so we do need the eyes in here.
So you're gonna, you get 5 days to fix the.
To reconcile.
Then I'd be okay with 200 on the first one, but I still wouldn't do a court summons.
Okay, 200 first one.
Yeah.
How much for the second one?
I'd keep it where it is, because they have a court appearance,
Check.
which is more, right?
On the third.
Then third's 500. Yeah.
2 weeks.
Okay. Something else.
The other thing is.
Yeah.
Talk about when there's like a name storm or something like that.
Yeah, oh, so yeah, acts of nature, right? So we're oscillating back and forth with that as well. And where we landed was based on experience, when there's a named storm, tropical depression, tropical storm, hurricane, right? Or even a nor'easter, right? They name the nor'easters, I think, in the winter.
Micro depression, whatever.
Yeah, right, microbursts, right? And they get like
Superstorm?
hopefully we don't have another superstorm, but the point is when there's a named storm, that is what will likely trigger the DPW to go out and do an ad hoc pickup. Again, it'll be a case by case, they'll drive around, make an assessment, but we landed on a named
Okay,
storm, because that usually means there's something behind it, right? The last one, I forgot the name of the last one. That's a really good reminder. Guys, I miss anything else?
I'm gonna defer to borough attorney here, but when you're looking at those court appearance required, a lot of times you'll see in an ordinance, it'll say fine up to $500. And then that gives the judge the leeway when he's there to, maybe there's special circumstances, and he might say, well, I'm gonna fine you 250 and not 500. Or he might see them in the third appearance, and if it's up to, he would maybe go to the next level. That's,
It can, there can be ranges that, are instituted, but at the same time, you can also, have someone's, strict liability, right? It speaks for itself. So if you're found, guilty after failing to comply with a 5-day notice, then, the first fine could be $200. It could be something specific. And so people know that if I violate, and it doesn't leave it up to the judge's discretion. Even though I believe our judge does live in towns. Was it? Yeah.
And on
He
the,
probably cares about the way, the town looks, but at the same time, there's nothing up for interpretation or discussion. And it makes the prosecutor's job easier
Yeah.
too, because, there's nothing that they can really negotiate. This is it.
and the one thing too, Mayor, that we talked about was, and we would have to work with legal on this, but we could come up with a list of approved landscapers. So when they're issued that warning, we're gonna give them, and we can't pick, we can't say, hey, use this landscaper, right? We have to come up with a certain number. I think it's either 10 or 15 landscapers that we can give them as recommendations. We work with Allison to ensure they're all registered with us, right? So it hits that side of it. So we're gonna give them as many opportunities to fix their issue before we come in and say, hey, you're getting fined.
I can talk to my landscaper just to get their, I'm sorry, their view, and he knows it's hard in Fairhaven. I will be interested to see what he says about this.
Yeah.
I bet he's gonna say it's better. But he follows rules, he comes in and gets the zones, he figures out the schedule. That's what makes his job really hard. But he follows the rules. So, and he does not call him too. So the point is, some of them never take that level of ownership. So I agree with that piece of what you're talking about.
I'll advise completely against it. We will not name a group because this is a quasi-criminal. And there is enforcement actions which could result in the arrest of a person. We're not going to recommend, a business in order to comply with the ordinance.
Can we give them a list of 15 landscapers?
But they can register, the same way tree service companies do, they can come in, they register. They register, and they can get the information,
Perfect.
the schedule, and learn what they need to know.
So there's one code enforcer, there's one individual, like how else do we empower DPW and other, that's impossible for him to catch. He's also.
We talked about specifically with this instance, right, that the education on the DPW side is that when they find somebody not compliant, you include putting something in the can that they shouldn't,
Okay, got it.
right? Take a photo, right, record it, everything's documented, every stop, every house they do, everything's documented to a T. We just gotta get that information over to Brock. Now, will there be a potential of code enforcement, apologies. Could there be an influx yet? And then we'll have to cross that bridge when you get there.
I just mean it's hard for one person to do this, so how do we all become code enforcers, like, how do we, you know what I mean? In all honesty, there's neighbors.
what people call.
It's not working, right, so we're not enforcing it, that's my point.
It's something we have to address. It is.
I agree, I would just say, I do think that in a lot of areas, not just this, our enforcement is a little relaxed.
Yeah.
And I think that's just the spirit of the community as it's been for a long time, but I think homeowners who take pride in their property want to see.
Yeah.
Their neighbors comply.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's,
So Mayor, if I can, I'd like the governing body's blessing to move forward with this. I'd like the blessing to go talk to Fairhaven Hardware to see if there's some type of arrangement we can come up with and come with updates at the next governing body meeting to move toward this.
I'm good with it. I am very adamant that the green can situation needs to be uniform, and we need to come up with a good solution for that before we say, okay, everyone go get your cans.
Check.
I think but awesome,
yeah.
awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And I'll just acknowledge that there's a big communication piece to this. And we'll have to have a separate discussion about that.
I also want to acknowledge that two of the priorities we set forth as a governing body this year hit today. I'm not looking to take any wind out of the facilities sales, but we did the groundbreaking for the police department today. And now they hit on brush and leaf in the same day. All right, business district grants.
Oh, yes, yes, yeah, one second.
If the brush and leaf folks, you do not have to stay if you want to bug out, you want to stay, or if you want to comment in, just giving you guys that flexibility to get out if you want.
The grant committee has a recommendation for the governing body. And I'll review it for you, go over it, and then we need to. Oh, here they are. Yes, so the grants committee, well, the first, I'll handle other updates from grants committee later. Before you is a template or an executive summary of a grant that the grants committee would like to recommend to the governing body, or is recommending to the governing body. This is a technically an NJEDA, New Jersey Economic Development Authority asset activation grant. It's a planning grant for community supply boards, a rolling grant. They'll close on November 13th, first come, first serve. And we would like to recommend that we apply for this for 2 planning initiatives. The first one being a vision plan for the business district. This is to satisfy a kind of, or to build on a key pillar or a goal within the master plan to orient development toward the traditional Main Street. That requires a layer of planning work that we could do with this grant. The grant would be for $50,000, which would, we can get in the total cost at a separate discussion, but this grant is for up to $50,000. So the first piece we're considering for your review is a vision planning grant, a vision planning exercise for the business district. And then the second piece is for conceptual planning for public access to waterfront. And if you look at Fairhaven and our public access to waters, again, one of the key goals of the master plan, we have 7 potential locations along our northern border, which is about 1.5 miles approximately, and 7 potential locations for public access to the water. The planning initiative that this grant could help fund, it would be a conceptual schematic kind of planning exercise to engage the community in a discuss public discussion of what those public access tools would look like. How could they be recreational, passive, environmental, heritage, or cultural, or not at all. These are conversations that we can have and be properly facilitated by a planning professional. So that just outlines generally the 2 things that would suit this grant. If you remember a few meetings back, I have reported to the governing body that I spoke with Hiram Borough to ask them to assess the fit of this NJEDA grant for Fairhaven. It was flagged by the grants committee. We followed up with Hiram Borough. They thought we were a good fit for this. They can submit the grant application for a $2,000 fee. And there is an application fee, which seems a little unusual, but there's an application fee from EDA for $1,000. So for a total of $3,000, we could potentially receive up to $50,000 in planning, which is, I think we've tested it. I feel confident about applying, and I think the 2 planning initiatives that we framed here are very much in keeping with what Fairhaven's goals are. So your summary is in front of you, but tonight I'd like to get your support because the sooner we get it in, the more likely we get awarded.
Comments? Yes, sir.
Do we have a budget for the 3,000? Where are we gonna pull the budget?
I don't have that information.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, maybe I misunderstood the $3,000 too. Why do we need that?
so somebody has to write the grant application. You have an executive summary that describes the grant and the purpose for it. The application actually has to be prepared and submitted.
But we have active grant, we have people who have done that before on the committee.
They're not officials of the borough or professionals who work for the borough.
Right, but they know how to write grants. I
I-
would have to spend $3,000 if we can do it internally.
Well,
I'm not sure I can do it.
You said 1,000 of it is like the application fee,
Yes.
so that's not avoidable.
Yeah,
we're talking about 2,000.
it's $2,000.
$2,000 is $2,000.
Understood.
Yeah.
That, I just wanted to draw that distinction, that's all.
Right.
moving to the deliverables, it sounds like we wanna have, how would this actually lead to an action?
I think these are pre-development planning exercises, so the deliverables on the first piece would be a shared vision for the business district, in particular also looking at some assets, borough assets that are considered underutilized. And you'll notice in the summary, it touches on Borough Hall, for example, our borough offices in the library have a degree of underutilization in that they don't fully meet the need. Bicentennial Hall is a property within the business district and historic, just in the middle, again, underutilized. So the whole idea is those two things help make us more grant worthy. But they are also key components of the pedestrian business district, the traditional Main Street model. So the deliverable, sorry, to answer your question,
Okay,
is a final report with pictures, renderings, and findings. But it expresses the collective values of the community and it gives direction to the governing body and will then become an informative for a master plan.
right, so the $50,000 is for that deliverable you described, the planning and the proposals and so on. But it's not helping fund anything specifically.
It doesn't fund bricks and mortar. What it funds is, it gives the governing body a clear sense of what the community wants to see happen. So that when we, as a governing body, do make decisions about how to execute, whether it's a waterfront project, a waterfront amenity, or if it's a discussion around a borough facility, we have that then to help inform decision making. Which then leads to, as you're pointing out, bricks and mortar construction or something.
You guys in favor of this?
Who's the $1,000 go to? Yeah,
There's an
I've never
application
applied
fee.
for a grant with an application fee.
I actually, we did a little pushback on that to see, and it has to do with, the threshold energy, GDS, municipal, revitalization index.
I hadn't seen this.
If there were
First time hearing.
Well, it's just an EDA thing, not necessarily a grant thing.
So it sounds like we're generally in favor. I don't know where we're gonna find, if we can find $2,000.
I haven't looked at funding, I haven't, this is the first time I'm hearing this, so I don't know anything about the grant or anything about.
Okay.
I can sit down with you if you want.
Yeah, I'm.
It's a recommendation.
It sounds like we're generally in favor of it, so the question becomes, what do you need for, do you just need a direction if the funding is there? Do you need
If the
you need
government body
someone to
wants to
set a
spend
motion in?
$3,000, I'll find $3,000 in the budget. What's the worst case scenario? We have to transfer to a line in November. I mean, you set the priorities when it comes to the budget, so.
You need a vote from us? Or?
No, I think it's enough to say, if you want to, I mean, it's up to you, you want to pull the governing body, but
Yeah,
I'm
think
not-
just to make sure everyone's on board with it.
I'm just not in favor of spending the money.
Who
I-
are
But
you
you're in
gonna, who are you
favor-
gonna volunteer to do it?
If I have to learn it, I'll do it. I don't think we should be spending thousands of dollars on professional grant writers when we have people that have done this on committee. That's my vote.
I cannot sign a good conscience, sign a resident to volunteer to do this.
It's not, it's not that complicated.
My view is, I think that getting $50,000 in for planning purposes is fantastic. So with that, I commend all the work that was done by the committee,
Thanks.
and the recommendation. Notwithstanding $2,000 or the $1,000 that we have to pay to get it, I would definitely support that. I would support spending it, but if we can do it internally and still be successful, I would support that too, Kristen, so support that as well. So I'm generally in favor. I don't know if we have on finance committee, member that I don't know if we have the money, but if you're saying we can figure it out and find it.
are you applying for two separate grants?
So
One for the downtown and one for waterfront?
I
And is
think
it $1,000 per?
we're applying for up to $50,000 for two planning initiatives. One for public access to the river, one for the business district.
Conceptually 25 to each if they fund you to 50.
I think that's a determination that will be made at the time we submit the grant application. Again, if a volunteer does it, I'll try to find the time to support them. This is something I understand very well. But if we can have a professional do it, and I think it's worth $2,000, then that would obviously I'll work with the professional as well. But I think it could go a lot faster. The times of the essence, the window opened last month and it's gonna close. It's only a 90-day window. Yeah. So there's you kind of need to get it
Did you
in.
get a proposal from Hire Group?
Just informal, I asked her if she could see if we're a good fit for this and what she would charge. That's all I got.
I guess I would just try to see if we can do it internally. I've seen the green team and other people in town who have expertise for this and have volunteered to do other grants. Which were not as, maybe as valuable as it might be, they might be willing to help out. So,
Yeah, likewise. I think it's a great idea. I think it's gonna be a great product. I think we need it.
I think we need the planning. You guys, I cannot tell you that there's a bunch of volunteers that can drop their day job and their kids to go prepare this. I don't know where that's coming from. You guys all do the same thing.
So it sounds like the council is generally in favor of applying for this grant. There's obviously some debate as to whether we could do it internally or whether we should have someone do it for us. Why don't we table this for offline and we can have the discussion of whether there is someone that can do it, that can take time off their day job. And if they don't, if we can't find someone to do that, maybe at that point, we would see about a planner doing the work. Does that seem like an okay plan?
I think everyone should look at the application. Our governing body.
Before we decide to go to a planner.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to circulate it?
Sure.
I mean, you give it to Teresa and she can send it to her.
Betsy, can you hear us or no?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. Right. Betsy, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I would prefer to wait and see if we can do this in-house before we agree to spending $3,000. This is the first I've heard of it, so I'd really like to see what the grant proposes and what it covers.
You were in the preliminary meetings for this, anyway, we'll catch up when you get back.
Okay, so I think the majority of the council would like to see if we could do it in-house. We can't do it in-house, then we're certainly gonna look into whether the next step is to
Okay,
engage a planner.
I'll reach out to the committee members to see if there's somebody who can put some time into it.
And
I'll
also,
put some time into it.
and Kristen, you're gonna circulate it? Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you, Kristen Nicole, for bringing that to our attention. Next up is waterfront fishing and crabbing rules. Pretty simple, we didn't get that into a resolution, did we?
No, but I have actually had some questions.
Okay,
And Mayor, do you mind just level setting for this again where we left off?
yeah, so based on feedback we've received from multiple members of the community, we think it's very forward-thinking to establish uniform fishing and crabbing hours from all public-owned properties in the borough of Fairhaven. We discussed in the last meeting some different time intervals. We discussed sundown, sunset. We discussed 30 minutes or an hour before sundown, after sunset. I had a few side conversations since the last meeting. I believe I gave some sort of timing directive,
Yes,
right, that we wanted to start with to consider.
right, so let me just jump into a couple, so Mayor, you're correct. I believe the last time we spoke, it was 1 hour before sunrise and 1 hour after sunset. One of the things that's necessary, because there's gonna be signs that are erected, we need to have, in order for us to draft the ordinance, for the locations, the specific locations that you want the signs. Kind of like where we did like the no parking signs.
Right.
So we need to know the exact locations where you want to have no crabbing or fishing.
Because we need to know how many signs to make? or?
No, because in the ordinance, it'll specify which locations we're directing the signs to be.
Wouldn't we want to just make it on any borough-owned property? Because eventually, if we were to acquire other properties, we want the ordinance to cover it with that language.
So any borough-owned property.
Yeah, I mean, no one's gonna be crabbing and fishing
Well,
from Fairhaven Fields anyway, but, you know,
But what about, so you have a Carter Pond,
right?
so that you don't want people,
At 4 in the morning? No, I don't think there's a need to fish at McCarter Pond at 4 in the morning.
so if it's gonna be any borough property.
That's how I saw it. I'm open to discussion.
That has water.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Water.
I don't think there's a need to distinguish though. No one's gonna be fishing
Right.
and grabbing from the other properties anyway,
Right, but you know, specifically looking at McCarter Pond,
right?
you know, because there are kids that go, you know, it could be.
You think about it at night, you mean?
Could be at night, it could be, you know, say 8 p.m. The kids are out there fishing.
But what times did I give you? I thought I gave
Well,
you,
it's 1 hour after,
no, I thought I sent new times.
No, you did, I thought you said, 8 AM to 9 PM to 8 AM?
Yeah,
9 p.m. to 8 a.m.
yeah. I believe that's where we ended up, but I'm open to,
Well, I like hours versus,
well, it can't be,
oh, well,
I could have said 9 AM to 8 PM
No,
because
no.
sundown is 8:30 in the summer.
I thought it was 10.
Yeah, that doesn't sound right.
9 PM to 8 AM, like
To 8 AM.
fishing.
Oh, in between
In
the two
between,
times,
right.
got it, okay, I was gonna say.
Do you think, just, obviously not a legal determination, but 8 a.m., you don't want people, you know, I mean, if it's 7:30 and people wanna go fishing, you know, something that.
It's something for us to discuss. My only concern is if we open up for fishing and crabbing at 7:30. Those people are showing up at 7 AM and they're slamming their car doors and we have neighbors that want to sleep and they don't want to wake up potentially, but I also understand the question because fishing and crabbing, a lot of people do that in the morning, so. You know, I'm here,
Yeah, I always land,
I want to listen to feedback and.
I always land at like 10 PM to 6 AM. I don't know why that stuck out for me, but then again, I don't live by these properties, so.
Yeah, but they're gonna show up with their cars at 5:30.
5:30.
I think it's too early.
And again, you're gonna have the people you don't wanna have there, right, at 6 AM,
That's fair.
I think.
Yeah, I trust you guys, I do. I think we're gonna see how this progresses and potentially revisit it next year, which is a good thing.
and this is gonna be an enforcement matter.
You said you solicited some feedback, did you get like?
I got different feedback from different people, you know, if I recall, you know, yeah, one of you would say 7 AM, the other one 6, one would say 9, I think I had a 10. So
Going once.
10:15.
I mean, my personal opinion is to, hey, let's do our best to come up with a set of hours right now. And it's like anything else, it's a living, breathing document. We need to change it based on feedback we received from the community, and we change it. It's pretty simple to just change hours in an order. So,
We will be, you know, paying for the signs, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna put up the signs?
Yeah,
And we also got, and also not doing borough special events as posted. Like if there's a concert in the dock or something, wouldn't matter what time it is.
correct.
We're
And
gonna
and
have
Rich, when you do a borough sign, I mean, if we put hours on it, can you reuse that sign, strip the hours and put new numbers without it looking,
What we've done is you just get a sticker made up and sticker over.
does it look?
No, it blends in.
You know,
do we need summer signs versus,
you mean, do you want to change the summer hours, you're saying?
listen,
If you're gonna do that, you might as well do the sunset to
I guess
sunrise.
that's a good, discussion, because, I don't wanna see us having to reproduce signs. It's one thing to swap out a summer sign and putting out the you know, when you're thinking about spring, and there's a certain operation that has in spring, get ready for spring and summer, and that could be part of it, but, I think also it's a double-edged sword, because, the catch-22 is enforcement needs definitive terms.
What if you did an hour after sunset to 8 PM? Excuse me, hour after sunset to 8 AM, right? 8 AM, it sounds like a little bit of a hard time because we want to respect the hours before that making noises. You did an hour after sunset, that's season agnostic.
Hmm.
In the winter, it's 5:30, and in June is 9:30,
We could do 8 AM till an hour after sunset. Do we need it, let me ask you this, I'm not a crabber, do we need a full hour after sunset?
No, I'm just trying to give some flexibility. It's purely for that. To me, when you're crabbing with tide.
Yeah.
You're not crabbing based on the hours. So. And nobody quote me on that.
What's the latest sunset during the summer?
9:30.
Sunset, I don't think it's that.
No,
Yes, it
the
is.
twilight goes till 9:30, but
Yeah.
yeah. It is sunset.
It's still light enough to be out crabbing or fishing. It's kind of a lovely time of day to be out crabbing.
I'm gonna get you the exact crap, hang on. It's June 21st is the longest day of the year.
Just keep it down the
June
audience.
21st,
Picking up on the,
8:30 p.m.
8:30.
That's the longest day of the year.
The latest you can crab in the Borough Fair on any date would be 9:30.
9:30
Yeah.
p.m.
I think I'm all right with that. I think that's good.
Yeah.
Oh,
Noise ordinance, right? Generally, it's like 8 to 10. It's like make it 8 to 10. That's pretty reasonable, 8 to 10.
8 AM to 10 PM.
Prohibited.
Not follows.
So 10
NPN daily.
PM to 8.
the only issue I have there is like when's sundown on the shortest night.
4:37 p.m.
Yeah.
So then you got people, do we want people crabbing and fishing in the dark for 5 hours? Is that easy for you to patrol?
Yeah, right now, there are some people that are out there all night.
I know.
It'd be reasonable.
That's why we're
You
here.
know, once, yeah, and, you know, in the middle of winter, nobody's gonna be out there either, so once it gets.
True.
Kind of changing, so I think that kind of follows what we already follows it
Yeah.
somewhat.
I don't think people,
It's two separate things.
we crabs in December.
I think crabbing and fishing.
Yeah, probably pretty much.
Well, from an enforcement standpoint, I think does that facilitate communications with your officers and?
Yeah, I just think 8 to 10, there's no
Mhm.
question, I think that follows the noise ordinance to, you know, a certain degree,
Mm.
simple.
I think the enforcement piece is gonna determine how successful it is.
I'm putting it again, we're not telling people they can't be on the dock,
Right.
Right.
we're telling them they can't fish or crab. So I feel like that and the noise thing are two separate things.
Well, I mean, it's just, you know, if somebody's out there after 10 o'clock, they're making noise, that's when we go out there and tell them they have to leave.
So while we have you here, chief, on that point exactly, I want to open up quickly. The idea, we're talking about crabbing and fishing, but there are other things that happen at the dock and other locations, particularly in Grange and Hants and some of the other places that are fun to go and do things with bottles and breaking broken glass and things that are a little loud or intrusive. That to me is as much an issue as the poorly timed crabbing and fishing thing. So where I'm going with this is, have we thought about hours of operation, like an open and a closed time? This would not exclude people from quietly walking down to the dock for an after dinner walk, but it would provide enforcement the ability to basically remove anything that is disturbing peace or violation of, a normal conduct.
The only thing I would say there is, I think those other things you're talking about are probably already covered in ordinance.
Like if you're
Just
talking about
about-
drinking in public, that's already not allowed.
Drinking and loud, carousing kind of,
Well,
it
you know,
happens a lot.
right, but the drinking is already covered by statute, no drinking in public. There's a noise ordinance in place, as the chief said, from 10 PM to 8 AM.
It is
Yeah,
not,
John, we get it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
slippery.
tough. I mean, we live in a community where all the kids can interact with each other and they can walk and bike to one another's houses. And I think sometimes they do, they hang out at the youth center, they probably end up at Fairhaven Fields. And yes, they get themselves in trouble here and there. I'm not giving them a pass for that, but I also think in some ways, maybe it's better that they're in those situations using active recreation and being in someone's basement drinking where you don't know what to do. So I just, I'm not sure about, hours of operation of the parks. We're basically saying then you can't walk through a park with your dog and I don't
Well,
know.
it comes down to enforcement. Obviously, that's not gonna be disturbing peace. It's not gonna be disruptive and it's not gonna infringe on other people's rights. I'm thinking of this from an enforcement standpoint, not necessarily targeting one particular recreational.
I do think that, I do agree that the crabbing and fishing is a separate issue.
Hmm,
And
So
it's become a source of use of areas that is creating trouble. I think I would address that as a separate issue. I can see the point of the 10 to 8. But in some ways, I think that, we really want to contain that crabbing and fishing. And I would treat it separately, like the 1 hour after sunset, I'm okay with
Yeah,
that.
why do we want, I agree, it's not as much in the winter, why do we want someone grabbing and fishing for 3-4 hours after sunset? Just because the sun goes down a little bit earlier, I don't think that benefits our town in any way. And no one's sitting there watching what they leave behind with the raw chicken and, using the facilities for that amount of time. I just think it's too long.
Which is, can I just mention, you mentioned that the dog, oftentimes I go there, it looks disgusting.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if there's a way to address it or to clean it, but you go there and you can tell people have been crabbing there and it smells, it looks dirty. So, pizza boxes all the way up on the top of the trash there. I just think that I'm very much in favor of containing the crabbing and fishing, but also finding a way to maintaining the dock clean, so it has a better appearance.
I think one of them might help
Maybe
the
they
other.
together, it may help,
yeah.
but it's an issue.
I'd like to try, that's what I'm saying, I hear what the chief says, I think we should try, and then if it's not working, then we pivot and we change it up again.
I mean, it all comes down to enforcement, right? That's everything that we're trying to do.
Okay.
exactly.
Thank you, chief.
Yeah.
You have your direction? Next meeting?
And sorry, one last item, I know last time we talked about no cooking, no heating stoves.
Well, that's where I was going.
Is that in
all the other
there?
stuff.
Yes,
Yeah.
we're gonna put that in there as well.
Just to make sure that's in there, and then no sleeping with sleeping bags or anything like that, or just wanna make sure that, do we need to put anything like that?
Well, the open flame one definitely needs to go in there. I don't know how we would put in there about the sleeping bags, but
I just wanna make sure that, I've heard stories of.
if there's
people
not a
going out
reason
in
for the
forest
crab,
with sleeping pads, just wanna make sure that there's nothing else we wanna cover
No camping.
while we're doing it.
if there's not a reason
Well,
for the crab,
If we're going,
then they shouldn't be sleeping there.
You would hope so.
if we're going beyond the dock and we're saying any property, we do have Cub Scouts, we have other Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts and so forth, using different properties, so just, I wanna be careful that we're specific to the dock on that thing. 'cause
Okay.
we-
Crab,
I don't
That's
wanna
fair.
turn this into a paperwork exercise every time
Right,
we do a townwide camp out or something like that,
but
just the dock.
oh, you're talking about for the
Yeah,
open
but
flame,
all of that stuff,
the open flame is specific to the dock, correct?
and sleeping bags, like, cause we do, people just tent, they get in their sleeping bag,
yeah,
they'll.
and I'm.
We
I'm
do that
good
in
with
theory.
that. Just wanna make
Maybe
sure
we're
that we
talking,
cover that.
so it's specific to waterfront property.
Yeah. Yes, that's
Specific to
great,
Waterfront properties.
Thank you.
Okay, we're good? All right, 21 Fairhaven Road purchase process, Administrator Casagrande.
The mayor, put this on the workshop agenda, governing body as well as the public are clear on the process, if the boroughs to move forward with the purchase of 21 Fairhaven Road. In accordance with the governing body's instructions or our 926 executive session, Alice and I have been working with special counsel Sal Alfieri on the various considerations related to the potential purchase of 21 Fairhaven Road. The first step is to secure the grant funding from both Green Acres and Monmouth County, which will offset the $1,790,000 purchase price by a total of $1,454,375. And the breakdown for that is as follows. Purchase price of $1,790,000. Green Acres funding in the amount of $447,500. Noting that the grant is $500,000 and there's a $52,500 balance can be used to fund 25% soft cost. The subtotal post the Green Acres funding is $1,342,500. The county, the Monmouth County Open Space Grant Fund is willing to fund 75% of that balance in the amount of $1,006,875, which leaves the borough funds for the purchase at $335,625. As far as I moved the soft cost, we have a total of between the Green Acres availability of 52.5 and 25 from conservation fund, we would have 77.5 to offset soft costs. The first steps in grant exception process are listed on tonight's agenda as resolution 2023-262, which is the grant agreement with Monmouth County, and resolution 2023-263, which is the grant agreement with Green Acres. These agreements will require the borough to do the following: update our recreational open space inventory, our ROSI, and submit to Green Acres, complete a survey of the property, complete a phase 1 environmental assessment. Depending on the phase 1 environmental, we may have to do an oil tank analysis if there's a tank on the property. And we will have to do a title search and secure a title commitment. The purchase will require the following: final grant approval by Monmouth County Board of Commissioners, final grant approval by Green Acres, a contract of sale between the borough and the owner, the introduction of a land and adoption of a land purchase ordinance, which will be on either the 10/23/23 or a succeeding meeting agenda. And I have in the process of reviewing the following, which would be the timing of the grant funds, whether they're going to be available at closing or whether they're reimbursable. This will need to be reviewed by the finance team prior to closing.
Thank you, Teresa. Before I get the public comment on agenda items only, any questions, comments from anyone?
Just do the numbers one more time, too,
Yes,
starting from the 179.
yes.
Thank you.
The purchase price of the property is $1,790,000. Green Acres will, it has a $500,000 grant to the borough. $447,500 would go towards the purchase price. The balance of 52.5 can be used to fund 25% of its soft costs. Soft costs would be things like the title search, the environmental, the legal, anything that's not the purchase of the property. That leaves a balance of $1,342,500. And very much appreciated and noted is Monmouth County Open Space Grant has recently come up with a new program where they're going to fund 75% of the purchase price after the Green Acres funding is taken into consideration, which means Monmouth County Open Space Grant Program will give us $1,608,775 for the purchase. And of that original $1,790,000 purchase price, the borough will fund $335,625. Balance will be funded by grants.
Thank you.
Discussion?
Sure.
So even if we got the land for free, we would still have expenses associated with ownership, stabilization of the site, making sure insurance covers the borough properly. It's gonna have a public waterfront piece of vacant land. There's exposure there. And my questions, which I have asked for answers to, have to do with the costs associated with this. We look at it in phases, which is, I believe, the direction the governing body is considering. Meaning, don't worry about everything else, just acquire it. There's a set of expenses associated with that, even if the property didn't cost us anything. I've gone on record saying I'd like to know what those costs are. Personally, I would also like to know, I would also like us to contemplate the total cost of what might one day happen there. And we have discussed this as a governing body. I like to go into things with my eyes open. I believe that's a prudent approach, maybe not always a luxury when opportunities arise. However, I feel an obligation to be a touch more conservative perhaps than some of my dear colleagues. those kinds of numbers, even the legal services, which are on the agenda tonight, the consent agenda, I believe, if adopted, would simply trigger the acquisition process. Is that correct, Teresa?
The two items on the agenda tonight are related to the accepting or securing of the two grants.
Which also has embedded in it actions for authorizing you to act on behalf of the borough to complete the acquisition.
In the steps I laid out, but the initial, on tonight's agenda, you're only dealing with the two grants. I mean, like I said, these agreements that are on tonight's agenda will require us to update our ROSI, complete a survey of the property, complete a phase one environmental, and do a title search and secure a title commitment.
Before, yeah.
Yes, this
So
would be
the
part of what would be a
resolutions-
due diligence of any purchase that the governing body was considering when they're buying land.
Right, which does have a cost associated with
Yes,
it,
there's a cost associated.
but we don't know what that number is.
Well, you know, the survey of property, the phase one environmental, I mean, I have a quote here for a phase one environmental. And it's a couple years old, so I'd have to update it. But, the phase one environmental, for the Paisy is 2850. And once again, if we had to go to the next section, if they located an oil tank, you know, there'd be additional charges, but I have no idea whether there's an oil tank on the property or not. We won't know that.
Well, we
until
should
phase
assume
one.
there is, since we're contemplating tax dollars, I think.
Well, then
Then you have to be
that
prudent
is
as possible.
3105 from my proposal, which would be both of them together would be, if there does turn out to be an oil tank, would be 5,955.
And the
Once again-
condition of the current bulkhead, that would be shoring up. I think we have to also
That's
understand.
not, as part of what we need to move forward now to see these grants, that would not be part of that.
If
Right,
we
but I
own
think-
it, then we're responsible for what happens on that property. That's where I'm trying to express the idea that we need to look at phase one as a set of decisions, not just taking the grant money. Is taking, and I'm looking at resolution 2023-262. That's what's on the agenda, right?
That's the agreement with Monmouth County in 2023-263 is the execution of the NJDEP grant agreement.
Now therefore be it resolved by Borough Council that Teresa Casa Grande at the above named borough body or borough board is hereby authorized to execute an agreement amendment thereto the state known as Magnolia acquisition. And goes on.
That's the agreement with the county.
Correct, which is an acquisition agreement. And I don't need to belabor this, I'm just saying that those two resolutions that are on the consent agenda. Flip a switch. That's what's happening, or that's what's that's what's on the agenda. And I personally, I'm trying to stress that I feel like there's some information we don't have, that I would like to have. I may be in the minority, but I asked for a number of things that had to do with an assessment of the bulkhead, because once we own it, we're responsible. I'd like to hear from our insurance broker what sort of added liability insurance may be required. I don't even know if that's a thing, but it seems to me it might be. A vacant piece of waterfront property with a failing bulkhead are we going to buy gates and say keep out? Or is it going to be open to the public as is? Are we going to need to demo the house and regrade the lot? These are nested within this one resolution, these two resolutions. So,
Well, they're really nested in with the actual purchase if it goes forward.
Right.
But we can't secure the grant funding without approving these resolutions.
Right.
but what I'm saying is that that's in effect what would be happening if we approve these two resolutions, is it's the trigger, it sets things into action motion. And I'm saying we're assuming some liabilities and other expenses that we haven't accounted for, and that's the end of my comments
How
and
can we
questions.
quantify that? I think you bring up a good point.
I think they can, I mean, I think we have certain engineers who can go to the site and help us assess the bulkhead. If we have to send somebody out there, they can certainly look at it and let us know it's dangerous, or look out, it needs some shoring up, and then we don't need precise numbers, we need ballpark numbers. How much is it costing? I would like to know that.
To take down the house, I'd be interested.
Demoing the house.
Or if the house stays up, like.
The house isn't staying up.
But
The
that.
house would be taken down almost immediately.
Just from a
That's-
public safety.
That's not very
standpoint,
costly.
But
Taking down houses on that.
And it has to be removed and then the lot would need to be regraded. I mean, I'm just guessing based on what I know about construction and, but I think we need to tighten up that site. And that's gonna cost some money. It would be the responsible thing to do, and leave it like it is.
Oh, we're definitely gonna have to spend some money to clean up the site, 100%. You know, but that's.
Look, we
that's-
can't find
we got-
$2,000 to try to
we got-
get a grant for 50, but we're talking about spending how much for, we don't even know, it's like a blank check.
I wouldn't call it a blank check, but I would say that, you know, we, listen, you've seen me in our discussions in executive session, go back and forth on this. But when you have a $1.7 million property next to your municipal dock, that you're basically receiving a $1.4 million discount on. And you have a purchase that generations of Fairhaven residents are gonna be able to have additional access to the river on. You know, the cost associated with what we're discussing is a risk that I'm willing to take as mayor. Now, that doesn't mean that you all have to take that risk. That's up to you to make your own decisions and, you know, I wouldn't be upset in either direction. You guys are up here for a reason. You know, you will earn that opportunity. So that's really all I have to say on this process. I think we've kind of talked this one through a bunch of different times and I think we're at the point where, you know, if I would like to hear some public comment if there is any.
Two
Yes.
final points,
Sorry, Councilwoman Koch would like to speak on this.
Absolutely.
two final points if I may, and then move
Sure,
on.
absolutely.
We have a lot of natural resources and open space in Fairhaven, in desperate need of attention, financial resources in particular. And it's my position that we really need to take care of what we have before we add new. I could dream up all sorts of wonderful things for that location. Frankly, I think Fourth Creek could be beautiful. I think Schwangers could be marvelous. McCarter Pond, all of these potential gems are in need of attention, and I see the opportunities associated with this. And it's not an easy decision, at least for me, it's not an easy decision. But yeah,
Councilwoman Koch wanted to speak.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I would just like to say that I absolutely agree with Councilwoman Cole. While I think this is an amazing gift from Green Acres and from the county, I don't think that we've really explored the associated costs with purchasing this property, whether it be taking down the house, maintaining the property, most likely replacing the bulkheading. And as Councilwoman Cole said, we have a lot of other properties that are in need of some work. And I would much rather take care of what we already own than take our residents into a greater expense in maintaining another property. Also today, we had the groundbreaking ceremony for the police department and community center. We have a lot going on and we're expecting a lot from our residents in terms of financial support. And I think right now, this is not the best decision for Fairhaven. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Koch.
Maybe I'll just make a few comments. I mean, first, I think the amount of the grants that we will be receiving is amazing. The ability to purchase a property that you mentioned will be $1.7 million for a little over $300,000 is really a very unique opportunity. And I think we're lucky to be in the position to apply for this grant. I do think that we need to be responsible the way we use taxpayer funds, but I also think the borough is like a corporation. Every corporation has to have a short-term plan and it has to have an operational plan of how it's going to pay its expenses, and it needs to have a budget. You also have to have strategic thinking. You have to look long-term. Where do we want to be? And how do we get there? And I put this in the category of strategic thinking, right? yeah, we do have to pay our bills, we need to take care of the things we have. But we also have to look further out and say, you know, what kind of community do we wanna be? This property being probably one of the most beautiful locations in Fairhaven will be an iconic property next to that dock. I personally think it will be the postcard of Fairhaven once it's done, and it can be as simple as just benches with beautiful gardens. But I think it will be by far the most beautiful waterfront property that Borough is gonna own. The one in, Range doesn't even start comparing. The one on Hance doesn't compare. The Fairhaven, ramp doesn't compare. Nothing else is gonna compare to this. So I think from a point of view of, you know, really having something that future councils will be able to have a blank canvas to decide how they're gonna use this property. But the sheer beauty of it, is something that we should consider. And I'm, like I said, we absolutely need to take care of the things we have, and we're doing that. I think this council has done a great job with the help of prior councils to get us to the point that we actually, you know, rebuilding the DPW and the police station and doing the things that need to be done, absolutely need to be done. But, you know, you don't always come, with opportunity like this every day. It's a very unique location. And, I think this is a strategic purchase, and we have to look longer term. Our kids and grandkids are gonna be sitting in a bench there 30 years from now. I think that's absolutely worth it. So I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you.
Yeah, the way I look at this is tonight is the intention to move forward with it. I think there's gonna be a tremendous amount of time required on the design. And those components. I do think that the stabilization of the site needs to be minimal. It's a little bit of the chicken egg, right? How much time and money do you spend prior to even getting approval to do it? So, I think it's great for Fairhaven. I think it's a really hard decision. But I think it's gonna be great in the long run. I do.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm in support of 21 Fairhaven Road. We were elected to act as an executive board and stewards of the master plan. This was called out in the 2016 re-examination of the master plan. We're in a position like we were in the early 70s to acquire land like we did, which resulted in Fairhaven Fields recreation area and Fairhaven Fields natural area. I'm sure they didn't know there was gonna be a concession stand. I'm sure they didn't know there was gonna be a gravel track. I'm sure they didn't know there was gonna be a lot of things that are wonderful in Fairhaven Fields. And we were able to double the size of the parking lot in 2017. We added more tennis courts in 2018 with the help of the high school. Did a lot of things that they didn't think about in 1974 or whenever that was. This is a blank canvas or has a dilapidated home, condemned home on it. And I do appreciate everything Councilwoman Cole said earlier about getting a grant and doing planning. And I'm wholeheartedly in support of that. Evidence is what I said earlier. I think with good planning, with good public engagement, this will turn into something wonderful. Like Councilwoman Neff said, it's going to be the postcard of Fairhaven. You already know I support it. I think the ability to acquire the property is one of the single best opportunities I've seen in 7 years sitting up here. I don't think that anybody's confused about where I am right now. I do think there are going to be some costs we need to figure out in the long run, but from a 100-year or 200-year perspective, I'll look back at my time on council. I'm not gonna be alive in 100 years, but I'll look at my time on council and point to this thing. And I'm gonna point to the DPW that we renovated and the police department that we replaced. And those are gonna be the things that, and the community center as well, which we also brought money in from the government, getting a lot of support to do this. And I think these are the kinds of things that are really gonna make an impact on the community for generations. I understand, and I do support the grants, by the way.
I know.
And I think it is a small amount, but I appreciate that we don't want to spend the money if we don't have to, and we shouldn't. So for those reasons, I support.
With that being said, I just want to move towards public comment on agenda items only, and this does include, obviously, the discussion we just had I'd like to ask, just so that we could keep this discussion going, if we could just start on comments on that agenda item to start out. And then I will circle back to any other agenda items after that. So if there's anyone that has a public comment on agenda item for 21 Fairhaven Road, please come on up, state your name and address, please. Please try to limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Sure. So I'm Beth Goods, now currently Beth Ford, as of like 5 days ago. I live at 23 Fairhaven Road.
I'm Peter Gotch, I'm Beth's husband, I live at 268 Fairhaven Road, just down the block.
So first of all, I just wanted to say thank you to all of you for your service, and the time that you put into this and all the consideration you do for our lovely town. I purchased 23 Fairhaven Road 9 years ago, and I've been looking at that abandoned property the entire time. Actually had my property, major renovation I was gonna do, and I halted the plan 7 years ago because nothing was happening with that property. So I'm happy to see that something is going to happen. My concern of what I just heard tonight was originally it was a blue grant, a green grant. Monmouth County I didn't hear about before. Would the green grant and the Monmouth County grant continue to make that a passive park?
Not necessarily. It's not Blue Acres, it's Green Acres. Correct?
But there are limits to what you could do there, you know.
Like parking, bathrooms.
You know, the Green Acres piece of it, the only two pieces that both require is what they call deed of open space easement, meaning it's open to anybody. But as far as developing those, Green Acres has rules and regs on what can be developed, if you want to develop it. It has to be recreation oriented, you know, I sent the mayor the
I can send it
listing
to you
today, and I can
tomorrow
hear.
if you want.
But they do have their own rules of what you could and couldn't do on a property like that. Public notices.
Originally it was blue
Blue
water and Green Acres, which
There was never Blue Water.
it was never.
Blue Acres grant was when we purchased the property under Normandy.
Okay,
And Blue Acres is much more restrictive because you can't put anything on there that in a mean high tide will give a wash into the sea, which is why, you know, basically that's a very open passive park. This would not be Blue Acres, it'd be Green Acres, so there's a little more flexibility there. But there's also restrictions on what you can and can't develop within so many feet of the water and mean high tide and all that stuff would always have to be looked at depending on what the borough in the future decided to do.
Yeah, it's here permanently remaining used for recreation and conservation purposes.
And the important thing to note too is that when the design comes out, public engagement is a must, right? Not because it's like spelled out, but we have to, right? So you being the neighbor and all that, right?
I'm the only
Exactly.
adjacent neighbor that's not
You're
commercial.
immediately adjacent.
Yeah.
Residential. I bought the house. It was not a commercial.
So what would be your concern about, say, a recreational facility?
Parking, lights, bathrooms,
access.
access to my property.
Whether people are parked on the street there near you?
Not even that. It's just the footage of my house right now. It was, when I bought it, it was non-conforming. My backyard is only 4 feet from that property line. So I would literally, and right now I have open space, which the homeowner was lovely enough to allow us to clean it up, which has been a disaster for years. And if it were to become a park where people could just walk up onto my property, I would be just locking everything in. And at this point, it wasn't like that when I bought it. It was, you know, a private home that was down by the water. And if it becomes a park where people can just approach my property, it reduces the value of what I had.
Well, whatever's there, it will become an attraction.
I mean, again, that's an argument Councilwoman called for acquiring the park.
They know I have
attractions
some
that
planning
we're improving our borough, but the only thing that I can say, I can't promise you what's gonna go there. What I can tell you is I sat in this gallery 8 years ago when they tried to put lights for one night in the summer for basketball, and we couldn't even get that passed. So the idea of permanent lights being in there, I'm not saying that it's not gonna happen, because I'm by the time they figure this out, I'm probably not gonna be sitting up here. I don't foresee that. Number two, the idea of this structure, you know, that house got flooded out in Sarah. So for us to put some sort of structure there, unless we're putting it on stilts, which I'm not sure that's the look we want for a riverfront park. I don't think that that's necessarily gonna be the direction we're gonna go either. You know, I don't see it, as passive as the Normandy. Cause truthfully, I don't think that park gets enough use. I think we do want somewhat of a recreational use out of this park. We want the waterfront access. I think that Fairhaven has good people, and the people that represent Fairhaven sitting from this dais are usually pretty reasonable, and they're gonna care about your entire neighborhood, not just your house right next to it, but the entire neighborhood, to make sure that the impact on you and your neighbors is minimal. And I think we've shown that tonight too, when we're talking about fishing and crabbing. Obviously, that's a forward-thinking ordinance that we're trying to put through. So I'd be more than comfortable personally. Again, I don't know that I'll be here when we start the actual design planning and all that, but if I am, I'd be more than comfortable sitting down with you and getting feedback and you know, hearing how this could potentially, how our designs could potentially affect you.
And the county did recommend to get as much property, right? We did broach a question to the county on dividing it up, but they said in an instance like this, you want to buy the whole property.
Right.
We did ask that guidance from them, and they provided.
That was one thing we were interested in, is buying what is unusual, and there's a significant slope down where it flattens out, and we were interested in buying the slope. Just so we can have a buffer.
If it is indeed unusable, then I think that buffer will be maintained.
Yeah,
That would
that was actually going to be my point. I think you have a natural buffer there because I cannot envision that any council would come up with a design that would have people going up that hill, that little hill.
But if it
towards
is
their property.
truly public access and the fireworks going off, the 23 Craven Road is the best view. So all you need to do is scamper up there and sit your butt right on the property line, and all of a sudden we have people stadium seating right in front of us, just for example. So, so that was at least one idea that we had, to buy the unusable piece, because we could put a barrier down at some point on, you know, below the unusable piece, and then we'd be set.
we socialized the idea.
Yeah, okay.
So but this is the sticky nature of a potential public amenity in the middle of a very lovely neighborhood. And it comes down to not necessarily what we think at all. It comes down to a proper planning and design process that includes community, which is exactly what the grant application I spoke about earlier is all about. There's 7 potential locations along that 1.5 miles. And if we engage the community and engage the community in our process that helps us to conceptually, schematically develop plans that are sensitive.
Yeah.
But also meet the larger community's needs. Then, you know, but it's definitely threading a needle. It is because people are going to drive there.
So, I mean, in closing, just so on the record it goes, I bought a house that was in a residential neighborhood. I already have a marina next to me. Having a public park that has activity happening is a concern of mine. If I can't create some type of buffer from the property that I bought, granted, you know, we all know I have a beautiful view at the top of that hill. And it will be lovely when that house is gone. I'm not taking that away. And the thought of a lovely park is very intriguing to me as well. But just the activity and, you know, there's already activity that I don't appreciate right in front of my house going down to the dock. And so now you're opening up the door for people to migrate from the dock into the park area, which could create a whole new set of activity that's right outside my back door, which is not what I bought. I bought a residential lot with a residential house in front of it. So it's a major concern for mine. And if this does go through, certainly I would like to have some kind of consideration for creating some type of buffer and input.
Totally understand that.
Understand everything you said.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the public that wants to discuss 21 Fairhaven Road? Allison, is there anyone on Zoom with their hand up on 21 Fairhaven Road?
I'm interested. Just trying to find
Good. Hi, Bonnie.
Hey, everybody. Bonnie, 115 Baton Road. Just listening to the discussion, the point that Tracy just made about hiring an expert for $3,000 to analyze the situation and give some professional advice on developing these properties. I mean, this is a big deal at the end of Fairhaven Road, as the neighbor just pointed out. And our record at stewardship of our, open areas, I think we need to work on it a little bit. And I am worried about adding another area, and the cost of the tiny little bulkhead at the end of Grange. And this is a tiny little bulkhead, but how expensive is that going to be? I guess I'm kind of surprised that we talk about not having any money, can't afford this $3,000 grant, but yet can afford $300,000 plus a new bulkhead plus taking down a home. I understand that providing the residents with water access is very important. I mean, I understand that, but it seems to me it'd be a great idea to get some professional advice that Tracy recommended to recommend what the best way to go about this would be.
Bonnie, thank you. And we will take that feedback into our discussion as to what direction we want to go.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. Is there anything else on 21 Fairhaven Road?
Mark Olson just raised his hand.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, Josh. Everything Bonnie said ×2. That's all I got. I totally agree.
Bonnie ×2. Thank you. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Allison, anyone else? 21 Fairhaven Road?
No.
Okay, is there anyone else in the gallery that has a public comment on agenda items outside? State your name, address. Please try to limit to 3 minutes. Sir.
Michael 739 Lake Avenue. Good evening. I just want to comment on the beef and brush proposal. Excuse me, sitting here a long time. I'm really glad to hear it because I really have a problem with the way town picks up brush. Last year, I missed it by a day. And the brush sat out there in October, right around now, by a day. I drove around, I saw other piles in the zone that needed to get picked up, but what happened was, the town had already come down my street, and like the engineer said, we're not going back, so. Called Betty Ann a few times, she was very nice, she said, I'll see what I can do. Long story short, it never got picked up. When it was there a whole month, big pile. My neighbor across the street also had a pile. So come December, he picks up the phone and it got picked up. So I think what I heard was they're gonna have 2 pickups a month.
Between the bookends, correct. So spring clean out in April, fall clean out in October, in between 2 pickups of brush and mulch.
See, I think you need a pickup in November. Because you're looking now, there's hardly any leaves, anything falling. I think it's too early. I think you're, congratulate you, did a good job, but I think there's only one criticism. I think the fall cleanup is too early. And I think spring cleanup is too early, I mean, it's March.
April.
So it's March 31st.
Yeah.
Correct. Zone 1 and 2 can start putting out 27 March, but the first half of the town gets picked up the first half of April. Second part of town gets picked up the latter part.
Okay, well, that makes sense.
But is your concern leaf or brush in
Brush.
November? Brush, okay.
Brush. I think we need a brush pickup in November for sure, because I'm in zone 1. I'm picked up the first week. Now I don't pick up until April. So that doesn't work. It's gonna, and people are putting brush out anyway,
Correct.
And
Totally makes
I
sense.
think- I agree with the mayor. I think be careful with the punitive punishment. I think a warning would be good. And then maybe a fine after that. I don't like the fact that you can just drag someone into court for leaving some brush out on the street. I think you're gonna have a lot of angry people at that, but
Fair, and just to give you the numbers, right, we're going from 5 brush pickups currently, I believe is number, to 11.
okay.
So over the span of that, we are more than doubling how many times we're gonna pick up brush in the year compared to what we currently have as of today.
I wonder if it'll be late enough, but we can assess it. We'll have to learn as we go.
And yeah, and I'm really happy to hear that, but I'm thinking that if you look at the weather, I think November, you gotta be careful. There's gonna be, because if you don't pick up brush in November, people put it out. We get storms, it gets stuck in the storm drains, and it snows, and then you can plow over it.
A mess.
I just would like to see something in November.
It's good, it's great feedback.
It is.
What I would say is, we're gonna implement this schedule.
Right.
Let's see how it goes, right? And it's not immediate, it's for next year, right?
24.
For 24. Let's see how it goes. In November, we're gonna get our feedback, whether we like it or not. And then if we need to pivot for 25 on the schedule, we pivot for 25. I would also encourage Councilman LaBarbera to get Michael's number, because it sounds like we have a candidate for the brush and leaf.
Just got yourself-
We're taking recruits for 2024 BLC, so
One last suggestion, it might be a little crazy, but I heard the engineer say he goes down the street. And they drive around, and say, okay, we'll start here, we'll start there. It'd be very helpful. If like a couple of days prior to that, you can send a text.
Yeah.
Coming down this street.
Yep.
On this day. I mean, with texting now, communication could be instantaneous.
that's part of the plan.
That is.
So when we
that
get
is
rid
the
of
goal.
zones A, B, and C, we go zones 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you'll be getting similar texts like you do when bulk pickup, right? You got your text about bulk pickup. Same type of methodology. The Wednesday before you get the text, give me the green light to put it out, that you're getting picked up the next week.
Do you know if your household is signed up for the buzz?
I am.
Okay, so that's the goal, is to get, frankly, I'll just put the PSA out there now. We're really asking everybody to sign up so that we can deliver what internally we're calling targeted communications. Because we know that's how people communicate, that's how we function, is that text on the phone, so that's the goal.
That's what I heard about this meeting.
Awesome. It's working.
Okay.
And,
Feedback.
one last thing, the green cans. Are gonna be at the end of the bookends, right? After the,
In between the bookends,
in between,
correct.
so they're gonna be for brush
Yes,
instead of putting it in the gutter?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Okay, well, what if you have a lot of brush? I mean,
multiple cans. There's no limit on the cans.
I think the idea being you shouldn't have as much brush because it's in between the bigger brush pickups, right?
Correct.
And there's more pickups for it.
confused. What are the cans for?
Brush.
But you're also gonna do big brush pickup.
Yeah, we're gonna do one in the spring and one in the fall in between the can.
Oh, wow. That should be interesting. I don't know if that's gonna work because. If you have if you take down a bunch of bushes out of your house, they're not gonna fit in the can.
Right now.
People around here like, cut bushes down and swap them out every season.
I think our hope would be that those bushes get cut down before the big.
Correct.
I know it's not perfect, I know it's not always what happens, that's the hope. And I think what would happen now is they'd be cut down and they just sit in the street, and that's how they would end up in our.
I don't dislike the can because it keeps the streets clean.
Mhm.
I like that. I don't know if that's gonna work 100%. Thank you.
It's phenomenal
Find out.
feedback.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Betsy Kroll, 146 Fairhaven Road. Worked out very nicely, that couple of parties of interest aligned with the brush cutting evening here. So I'm really excited about this new one, Fairhaven Road, I think that'd be great. But my question is on waterfront fishing and crabbing rules. It's just a question. I'm curious if you guys have discussed in the past anything to do with limiting the number of fishing poles and crabbing things, because I've been down there when there's 2 or 3 fisher people and they've got like 15 poles all around the perimeter. And it's like, you get down there for a walk, the benches are all, have everything all over it, and it kind of just.
Like
takes
it's a
up the whole lot.
commercial operation.
We haven't,
So I'm just curious.
we haven't discussed it. It's a great point. My only thought is, I do wonder if some of these new rules we put in might potentially take care of some of that. But I don't know. That's a good one. I
Question, I wasn't sure.
Great
Yeah.
question. Phenomenal question.
yeah,
What about our attorney? Mr. Solo?
It's gonna be the largest sign I've ever.
Well, you know, how many polls constitute an enterprise versus a pastime?
I honestly don't know.
The whole one in each hand, that's about.
So two, I mean,
Okay, Marty Edward, 33 Dance Road. Just a comment, I do know a friend who runs a fishing pier, and on that pier, which is a very long pier, all the fisher people are limited to 2 poles, and crabbing also, very limited.
I don't think the polls are as much of a problem, unless I'm wrong. When I've been there, I haven't seen someone with like 5 poles. I've seen them with the 10 different traps.
I can tell you that, and this I think would be covered, I think I heard you guys comment that there would be some kind of mention of no fishing on the holiday special events. I was down there on, I guess it was the 3rd of July when they had the fireworks and a lot of people from the neighborhood came down. There were some fisher people and they were staked out around the whole perimeter, and there were lots of little kids there trying to find a spot up in the front, and, you know, the benches were all taken up with fishing things, and it was just. And I love fishing and crabbing together, but this was definitely poles staked along the perimeter.
I mean, that's not fair. And the other thing is, why would anybody have 10, you said 10,
So
crabbing
there's
spots?
people
Why would anybody do that?
there that are obviously crabbing for commercial purposes. They don't advertise that.
Do we want that?
No, I mean,
No.
you know,
Then
Are-
let's
So
put that on the list of the.
is that the type of recreation we're trying to attract? My answer would be.
Then.
Marty, can you send us that guidance, that one fishing pier that you have, and just shoot it out to Josh and he'll get it out to us and we'll look at it? I think you raised a great point,
yeah,
and it's something we gotta look at. Thank you.
because I mean, that's what that dock is about, getting to the railing to have, you know, that's a perch, a point of, you know, a viewpoint. And if it's occupied with somebody else's gear and tackle, and then.
The only thing I wanted to make sure I clarified, we're not looking to ban it on holidays, it's on special events. So if we have if we have music at the top,
Yeah.
someone has a permit for a wedding, firework, yeah, okay. Is there anyone else in the public with a public comment on just agenda items only? Allison, is there anyone online? Their hand up? Okay, thank you. Let's move along. We're gonna go to approval of minutes. September 26, 2023 executive session. Do I have a motion to approve? Yeah, something on that, right?
I'll motion to approve with an amendment. You want to get a second first, then I'll note the amendment.
How do we, Andrew,
I can get direction earlier.
she's good on this?
Yeah, I think
I
I
didn't
understood
talk to
it.
anyone about it.
Yeah,
Okay.
so do you want to get a second and then I'll make the amendment?
Well, I think, shouldn't we know what the amendment is before we vote to approve it,
However you,
right?
it's up to you
Yeah,
there.
yeah, I think we need to know what the amendment is before we vote to approve it.
Okay, page 2. Under acquisition of property, second paragraph. I have a simple suggestion to swap the wording where Councilwoman Cole.
It's an envelope, right?
The sentence reads. If Councilwoman Cole asked with regard to affordable housing, if the borough has an affordable housing plan, would we not be vulnerable to a builder friendly lawsuit? That was not what I was asking. what I said was that the borough would not be vulnerable. So Allison, if you were to swap would and we, then the sentence would be Councilwoman Cole asked with regard to affordable housing. If the borough has an affordable housing plan, we would not be vulnerable to another round of lawsuit.
I think it's actually. I think it actually achieves this, the way it's written, I think it achieves the same goal as what you're saying.
I think it says, I think. the way I read it
There should be a
says-
question mark at the end of lawsuit, right? It's.
It doesn't have a
Paul
question.
asked with regard to affordable housing, the borough has an affordable housing plan. Would we not be vulnerable to?
You're saying wouldn't we be vulnerable?
No, I'm saying we would not be vulnerable to all but the builder's remedy lawsuit.
So what was
Because
the question?
So then you weren't asking anything.
I wasn't, I was gonna try to make this a simple amendment, but it should probably be a statement. In fact, that's how I
So
first
change it
corrected.
from asked to stated.
Yeah, Councilwoman Cole stated with regard to affordable housing, because we have an affordable housing plan, we would not be vulnerable.
Got it.
Not we would.
I would make a motion as amended.
Second.
And to approve, correct?
And to.
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Councilmembers Cole,
Yes.
Kelly. Yes.
Yes.
Rivera.
Yes.
Net.
Yeah.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
October 3rd, 2023 special meeting, a motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Councilmembers Cole,
Yes.
Kelly. Yes.
Yes.
Rivera.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Thank you. Old business hearing adoption of ordinances, starting with ordinance number 2023-14, create lead paint inspection ordinance. Do I have a motion to open?
Motion to open.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Does anyone up here have any comments on this?
I just want to call out the 1978. Right, and we.
So. I spoke with Allison, and because I referenced the statute in the ordinance. The statute makes direct. Reference to the 1978 date.
Check. I'm good.
Is there anyone in the public? There's a comment on this ordinance? Allison, is there anyone with their hand up?
No, sir.
Do I have a motion to close?
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve ordinance number 2023-14.
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Councilmembers Cole.
Yes.
Kelly. Hutch. Yes.
Betsy?
Click your hand said twice.
Yes.
Yes.
There we go.
Rivera.
Yes.
All right, ordinance number 2023-15, long-term parking agreement with Fifth Chapel and the church. Do I have a motion to open?
Motion to open.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Is there anyone up here?
Just one thing on this, so, Chris and I will be attending mass on Sunday. If there's one other governing body member, we're going to church.
I'm going to
What did I
church.
say?
It's the 165th.
It's the 165th anniversary, it's so awesome, so we'll have 3, we can have more than that for quorum. At this event, we will be signing the ordinance with them. So there's 3 members of the church that are gonna sign this. We did sign the short-term agreement, which we'll talk about in a hot minute, but I just want to give that background, Mr. Mayor. If there's anybody in the borough, Chief, oh, we already spoke, but if anybody else, Teresa, Allison, Rich, anybody else would like to join, that'd be great, just to show the Senate. I think it's 10 a.m., but I'll shoot you guys a text. That's it, Mayor, thanks.
Is that an annual fee or is it a one time?
One time.
Okay, thanks. I couldn't figure, I mean, I didn't read it.
Anyone else? We're good. Anyone in the public? There's a comment on this? Allison, is there anyone online? There's a comment on this? No, do I have a motion to close?
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Councilmembers Cole.
Yes.
Kelly. Yes. Hutch.
Yes.
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 Thank you. New business council committee reports, starting with finance, followed by police, fire, and OEM, Councilman Rodriguez.
Thank you. 1 second, I just have a note here I wanted to bring up. So on finance, biggest thing that we worked on, and you'll see it later on in the agenda, is the bond ordinance 2023-17. It's important to note that that introduction will happen later this meeting for various improvements for $6.7 million, but authorizing the issuance of $5.7 million worth of bonds and notes to finance a portion of those costs. Those fees will be going, or those funds raised will go towards public works, Borough Hall, police department, community center, and also phase 2 of Fairhaven Road. The second item, which is in the consent agenda, is 3rd Street Phase 2. There was a little bit of extra work that we needed to do in order to finish some curbs for the tune of just less than $13,000, which will complete that project that's been ongoing for about 5 years now. So it'd be nice to close that one out. Very excited about that. Fire, police, and OEM. Just the main thing I want to mention is a fantastic presentation done by Sean McNeil on October 4th, Wednesday last week. I just wanted to mention the close partnership between the council, the mayor, and the Board of Education to improve school safety. He went through a number of improvements that we're going through, including 2 new SLEOs, which are class 3 special law enforcement officers, one's based in Sickles, one based in Knollwood. These officers were both present. They spoke with the residents who were in the audience. Again, a significant step in securing the safety of our children and modernizing our approach to securing our schools. So just proud that we've taken that step as a collective body up here. And I was able to attend on behalf of the council. So those are my reports, sir. Thank you.
Can I just add one thing? The ordinance tonight that you'll see, the public doesn't have in front of them, but it is noteworthy that for that Fairhaven Road ordinance, the $700,000 authorization, $675,000 of it is NJDOT grant money. And to Rich's credit, between Fairhaven Phase 1 and Fairhaven Road Phase 2, we got just shy of $1 million to complete the improvements of Fairhaven Road from NJDOT. That's the largest grant we've ever secured for the borough of Fairhaven when it came to NJDOT funding.
And the reason why that's important to note is because we pay a lot of taxes out.
Yeah.
And this is our opportunity in general to get funding back into town, which is roads and infrastructure projects. So it is a big one, biggest ever. I'll take your word on that. It's the biggest one I've ever seen. So
Bond
thank you.
ordinance is available, please.
Okay, I didn't realize it was out there. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilman Rodriguez. Moving along, personnel, parks and recreation.
Can I just ask a quick follow-up question just for education? Teresa, can you just explain to the public why, even though we're getting the $1 million, we still need to do like an ordinance with bondage, just so everybody can understand it?
Well, the bond authorization is allowing the setup of ultimately a capital account that we can charge, that basically this grant funding will be offset to. If there was no grant funding available, you'd be authorizing the entire $700,000. But in this case, it's written in such a way that you can clearly see that, you know, yes, we're authorizing $700,000 because that's what we think the project's going to cost, but of that $675,000 in grant funding. And once you approve that, then the CFO will move to set up the capital accounts so we can start to charge against them as different charges come in.
Thanks, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, personnel, parks and recreation, Councilman Hogan.
Sure, nothing new on Parks and Rec. We had a meeting last week. We have no one November 19th. I think everyone's aware that basketball registration is open right now. Lots of focus really on planning for the end of the year, all the events that we have coming up. Personnel, I know we'll be talking about the interviews and all of the interviews and the promotions for the police officers in executive session.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Hoey. Planning Board, Councilman Koch, you have anything for us?
Yes, our planning board meeting is canceled for this Tuesday on the 17th. And the beautification committee will be meeting on Wednesday at 2 p.m. In council chambers.
Thank you, Betsy. Thank you, Councilman Koch. Engineering and DPW, followed by Borough Facilities, Zoning Board of Adjustment, Councilman Barbera.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll start with zoning board. The 2022 annual report's forthcoming. We just had our last meeting on 5 October. During that, we discussed the riparian ordinance that's in our packet today. We had Jordan, I think his last name is Rizzo.
Yes.
He is he's the zoning board engineer that reviews all the packets. In the discussion with the zoning board, they requested that I circle up with Jordan, have him review the riparian ordinance that's being updated, make sure it's aligned with Mike Irene standards from 2021, which he affirmed it is. He suggested Nick Perchinsky take a look at it, which I believe he already did, but we'll make sure that it is. This is a great next step. The zoning board also requested consideration to incorporating the drainage ordinance, not that just touches new construction, but also renovations. So more to come on that. Next meeting is 02 November. Switching to facilities, on the PD Community Center, Mayor, like you said, with the groundbreaking today, it went great. The fence is being erected. The temporary bathrooms are set up at the fields, so right where that parking lot, right up there. So I just want to work with rec on timing, because I know Eric said that baseball goes till end of October, beginning of November.
Yeah.
Once winter hits, we take them away and we'll bring it back out in spring. The appropriation, just kind of want to set the record here. Right, this was a grant that I identified. There were 3 governing body members that spent 2 all-nighters to put this in. It's gotten through most of the approval process. Where it's at right now is the recent events in the House of Representatives that stalled the approval. So more to come, but we don't have this money yet. It's not. If it does come in, we can offset that part of that $6 million, of which 3 million is contingency, right? Just to give you guys the number. So we can cancel debt, but that appropriation, we don't have it yet. Not there. On the communication front with the PD Community Center, folks should have received the message today in email. We worked with Chief to get communications out to Sickles and Knollwood, the students themselves, tell them not to cut through. They can't, it's blocked, but just again, take another communication touch point. Chief, Kristen and I went door knocking on Friday to all the residents on Fisk between Cedar and Maple and then the corner houses. Funny story we'll share with Chief being in full uniform and one of the kids answering the door and then going to their parents and saying, "Mom, there's an officer at the door." Didn't go over well. No, I'm just kidding. That was funny. So the communication, be switching over now to the communications committee to take it, hashtagging it together. We have plenty of pictures that we took today. On Fish Chapel, signed short-term agreement. October 15th, me, Kristen, Tracy we'll participate in the 165th anniversary and sign the long-term agreement. And then on the memorial, I need 2 photos from Fisk on what they want included. If you recall, we decided as a governing body to go with, I'm going to simplify, but just bear with me, a rock and placard with like photos as opposed to a statue, which had upwards of 10x in regards to cost based on some quotes we received. Switching DPW, auction closed.
What do we make?
43.5. After expenses, 41. Home run, like phenomenal. We had the on-site bid meeting with potential GCs and subs on 5 October. That went great. We identified the security camera. We're able to buy it under state contract, that makes things a lot easier. That was all articulated a couple weeks ago in the packets that were sent out. Bid closing tab is scheduled for 01 November. We had a bee problem. Did I tell you about this at the concession stand? So we had a contract, a new one. Rich, I believe the bee problem's taken care of.
Yes.
Yellow
I
jacket?
think they die this time of year anyway.
Okay, I know we had to take the sheet rock. It was a whole big process, but DPW will be operating now out of the concession stand. Quick heads up. So if you guys recall about the AOCs at DPW, there's a state statute that you have to put up a sign that environmental remediation's in progress. That's going to be going up right outside the recycling center. So heads up if you get any. There's nothing of concern. right? Because there are areas of concern that we're addressing, so it's a little bit of a needle thread. Big Hall, we're just waiting on the Historic Commission review, to look at the 2 design options. And then I will finish with engineering DPW mayor. Fairhaven, the streetlights, we got the quote from the co-op. We have to go through an internal discussion to see what next steps are, but we got the quote, which was great. Hanson Cooney, just wanted to kind of level set the record here, Mayor. It's looking good for the tree. We'll make a final determination so we get the update from JCP&L, who's targeting completion of the work over the next 2 weeks. Once they're complete, sorry, no worries. Once they're complete, Verizon can complete their working with the pole. But I just want to make sure folks understand, you know, what this governing body did when it got to this inflection point of this tree. We have delayed paving by 141 days as of today, 141 days. Resident engagements, a whole slew of different Fairhaven-based organization. We've had 4 tree experts out, multiple on-site visits by the governing body members, borough staff. We had cost estimate done to relocate the pole. We had analysis done based on what percentage of trimming the tree would do irreparable damage. We also had analysis done on changing the entire infrastructure. So I want to make sure that it's extremely clear. Not only did we take the time, we took 141 days to do everything possible to look at that. And we ultimately, likely, hopefully, will end with a positive outcome. But I just wanted to make sure that the facts are clear. I went through every single email back since May. Stormwater management, there's no question of the storm that we just had, multiple factors, but I just want to give a quick update. River Road, we're following up at the county. Colonial Court on your agenda tonight. You'll see the resolution to approve the developers agreement. Rich, T, keep me honest. Then once that's approved, they will then be able to apply for permits. There'll be on-site meetings to take care of the stormwater management. But they have, you know, their time period to finish everything from start to finish. Foreman and Smith, that inlet fixing will start in the next several weeks. We already talked about Fairhaven projects, micro projects, continued resident engagement, some white glove. The prioritization was done based on the governing body feedback. Once we have a final schedule, there's 5 more homes. We have to provide some white glove service, just given the extended impact on the property. McCarter Pond, next steps are in process. Hopefully in the next meeting or 2, we'll have a decision point for the governing body with some work we could do there. And then Sunoco, if I'm tracking correctly, I believe M&M is fully compliant. Is that a fair statement?
Do they have other permits?
We just I issued my engineering letter stating they're compliant.
Okay. And now goes the planning, right?
Construction.
I copied our planners, so
Check,
that way in, they can file for permits.
Okay. So, just want to keep the folks updated on that. That's everything I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Marlboro Borough, Borough Communications, Community Outreach, Councilman Cole.
Thank you, Mayor. Let's see, outreach communication continue to be hard at work on, information regarding construction ongoing, and compliments to Biddy Ann, who's really trying to stay in sync with the chief, PD, and traffic implications for all things related to construction that's going on throughout the town, and it's going to continue. The main thing we really want to stress is, if you know a friend who's not getting the buzz, please ask them to sign up, share their information, and that way we can begin to really do what we hope to be able to achieve. The ultimate goal is targeted communications. That means a text on your phone or email if you want to provide an email, but either way, a way to communicate with every household in Fairhaven. We have formulated a way to tell the story of what's happening with the facilities project. That page should launch this week. And you heard a reference to hashtag Get It Together page, and we hope to secure that to be able to make it easy for people using the hashtag to follow along and see an aggregate picture of everything that as a story unfolds. If I got that right.
It's really cool.
It's really cool.
I think it really is.
So that's the idea. We're hoping to have that this week, but all the other messaging and content is ready to launch. The Environmental Commission hosted a environmental roundtable. It was very well attended. Every piece of government was represented. Various discussions around, everything from the bird sanctuary to deer, the need for mapping, natural resources and stormwater management, the quality of the river. I'll just say that for the time the volunteers spend showing up for this extra meeting, that's on top of the other commitment, it does create a nice kind of alignment around issues, and their sharing really helps to sort of cross fertilize. There's nothing, no actions come out of it, but they do share the things that are of interest for their various boards, commissions, and committees. The Green Team hosted an interactive information table to celebrate and support National Bike to School Day. It was very well received. The kids had a great time, and they did emphasize the use of your helmet. The Shade Tree Commission circulated a memo. I believe you all received that in your correspondence email. Is everybody getting their correspondence email? Okay. Just to give you the highlights, they are looking for approval to put the, does everyone know the Salem oak? It was a 600-year-old tree that finally crashed and died up in Massachusetts. It's called the Salem oak. It's very famous. And seedlings have been distributed throughout the country for territories that can propagate the Salem oak. We received 3, Fairhaven received 3, and each of these have been carefully grown into tender saplings that are now more like, you know, after they leave the sapling stage before it's a full tree, and they're ready to go in the ground. So they've identified 3 locations, obviously, because there's 3 trees. One in
Betsy's backyard.
William Albert Robarts Park.
I knew something was
Close to the benches, because DJ has observed that people like to use the open space at that park, and so we want to leave some open for frisbee or whatever happens there. But so one tree will be closer to the benches at William Allen Robarts Park, Albert Robarts Park, and then 2 in McCarter Park. As if you enter the main entrance on the corner, there's a pair of columns, and then just beyond that on either side, there's room for 2 of these beautiful Salem oaks. So it's public land. They're asking for permission, which they should get from the governing body, and that's the request. They've collaborated with the schools, which is a cute little thing I have to share. The kids have gone out to McCarter Park and collected acorns. I mean, buckets, barrels, bins full of, must be thousands of acorns. And then they're going to germinate them and root them. And then, and apparently the principal made October the month of respect. So this is the ideal time to plant them seasonally, but it also happens to tie in really beautifully with some of the principles that they're trying to convey with the kids about respect, nature, and taking care of the tree. So lovely, just so Fairhaven, you know, truthfully. So as long as there's no objection, they would like to go ahead and continue to collaborate with the schools and get the trees in the ground. Oh, and with fencing to protect them.
And just out of curiosity, I'm fully supportive. Why not put anything at community center or Fairhaven Fields?
I don't know, but I assume they discussed it.
Okay.
I think Chris Larson, Bonnie, and maybe a couple others went, and they've known about these saplings for a while, so I think they've been trying to figure out where for a while. Community center feels pretty active.
Yeah, I just,
Yeah.
my head just went up. I love it.
They didn't tell me that.
Yeah.
I just know that they've been talking about this for a while, so I'm sure they've contemplated it. The grants committee submitted the Vibrant Places grant application. I think we should hear back in November. If you guys remember, that was the wayfinding placemaking around history, cultural landmarks in town. And of course, we're recommending the EDA grant, which it sounds like everyone supports. I should differentiate the grant application from the fee. If we can agree to the $1,000 grant application, that doesn't have to stop us then. Because if I find some volunteers to help me write this thing, I'm still gonna need $1,000. We're still gonna need $1,000 to apply for the grant.
If it has to be a check, it'll have to be on the next bills list.
As the business, you know. Listen, I can't stress enough how important I think this planning phase is. It's a critical piece of good decision making. It'll give us the roadmap we need for what we want to do, whether it's waterfront parks or the business district. So,
and if you send me that, I'll need the information so I can put that on the agenda.
You got it.
And the bill list.
Okay. The business district will be hosting its Shop Small Saturday on November 25th, followed by the holiday stroll and Santa in the Park on December 8th. And Historic Association of Fairhaven, I'll just tag this on, is actually applied today with a letter of intent for a very small grant. It's a matching grant for $2,000 to, which they'll match with their own $2,000 to come over $4,000 to begin to archive or digitize the archive. This is just tons of stuff that is in cardboard boxes, plastic boxes, well cared for, but needs to get digitized. So stay tuned. I'll let you know how that grant application turns out.
Thank you, Councilwoman Cole.
I just have a question regarding the grant for $500. Did you receive it for Historic Association? Just the pet drumming?
Oh,
Nancy's been asking.
I think so. I will ask. Just, yes, I think that was a donation made after the event sent to someone's home. I will follow up, Allison.
That was the state.
Okay, moving along, introduction of ordinances, ordinance number 2023-16, amend chapter 30, replace riparian buffer ordinance to be riparian zone. This is the introduction. The hearing and adoption will be held on November 13th, 2023. Does anyone have anything on this before I ask for a motion? Anyone have a motion?
It would be adopted on the 13th, not the 26th.
It's land use,
Oh, it takes,
so they have 35 days to review.
got it.
Even though you have mentioned it. It's-
Yeah. Oh, copy that. Just learning moment. First, I need something to say. Motion.
Second.
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Councilmembers Cole?
Yes.
Helen? Yes. Koch?
Yes.
Rivera?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Thank you. Ordinance number 2023-17, bond ordinance for capital improvements, facilities and road improvements. Do they have anything on this before I ask for a motion? Have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Councilmember Cole?
Yes.
Helen? Yes. Koch?
Yes.
Rivera?
Yes.
Pat?
Yeah.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
And that will be on for approval 26, 23 October. Thank you.
Next up is the consent agenda. We're talking resolutions 2023-249 through 265. Before I ask for a motion to approve, does anyone first have any questions on anything up here?
Mayor, just a quick, not including 50, 51, 52, 53. It skips from 249 to 254. Just a quick
Because-
correction. Yeah, no, understood. I just want to make sure.
If no other questions, anyone want to separate anything on here?
Yes, please, Mayor. Could you separate 262 and 263?
Okay, so
Thank
we're voting from 249 and then 254 to 261 and then 264 to 265. Do I have a motion to approve those?
Motion. Second.
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Councilmembers Cole?
Yes.
Helen? Yes. Koch?
Yes.
Rivera?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Councilwoman Cole, do you need discussion or you just want a separate vote?
We had our discussion.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
Do I have a motion to approve or 2023-262 through 263?
Motion.
Second.
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Councilmembers Cole?
No.
Helen? Yes. Koch?
No.
Rivera?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Moving along, department reports, September 2023. Do I have a motion to accept the reports as submitted?
Motion to accept with a thank you. I do it every time, guys.
Yes, I do.
Do I have a second?
I'll
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
No.
Okay, we are at the good of the borough portion of the meeting. Please stand and identify yourselves by clearly stating your name and address for the record. Please try to observe a time limit of 3 minutes. Is there anyone? Yes, Marty.
Very great answer. Thank you to all of you on the council who've done so much work into looking into the tree and taking all the time and research to make it a lot to all of us who live on the insurance. And thank you. This is all you need.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that has a public comment? No, good of the borough. Allison, anyone online?
Yes, sir.
Okay, with that being said,
Maybe I
Yeah.
just mention one item, the natural fuels committee had suggested a volunteer appreciation day. And I'm wondering whether it's something that.
volunteer what?
Appreciation day,
Appreciation.
and sort of, you know, as a way to say thank you to the number of volunteers we have, not only on the Family Relations Committee, but just in general, we have such a high number of volunteers in all our commissions. So just thought I would mention that to the council, whether that's something that we want to think about eventually doing, you know. Just a way to say thank you now, just think about how it could be, but
I love that.
just think that there's, you know, there's so many people
Yes, there
here.
are.
Let's talk about that some more. Okay, thank you. With that being said, we're gonna move towards executive session at 9:36 p.m. Do I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right.
But it's always.
One person. But it doesn't need to be. I mean, there's 4 different sections, there's no one section.
Okay, time is 10:29. Do I have a motion to
Motion
adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Good night, everybody.
Do you wanna